What's going on, Chicago? This is 4-Star Chicago Sports. Welcome to the Halas Hangover. I'm Dustin Jones, Kyle Duplessis with me, Brandon Duplessis, the twins. Sean's not with us. Hopefully he can pop in a little later. We got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. Matt Miller's 2026 projected first-round mock draft. We got whether or not we believe DJ Moore could be a top 5 receiver in the NFL in Ben Johnson's offense. And who would we pick as captains for the Chicago Bears in this upcoming season, as well as some Colston Loveland talk. We're going to get into all of it next. Thanks for being here. Be right back. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining us. Welcome to another edition of the Halas Hangover. Kyle, how you doing, bro?
Not much, man. What's going on with you guys?
It's going, bro. Brandon, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. How about you?
I'm good, man. I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk
short week
sports with everybody.
Week?
Not for me, bro. I'm fucking working all week, so it is what it is. But
oh no, I meant for me.
Yeah, good for you. Kyle, you working all week as well?
Always, man.
Yep. Anyways, we got a lot of shit to get into tonight. Everybody in the chat, thanks for being here. Bruce, Phil, so far, thanks for jumping in. Make sure you guys hit that like button if you have not already. Make sure you're here to subscribe if you're not already. Where do we want to start here, guys? I think this captain's conversation is a bit of an interesting one. We know last year the Bears, basically everybody on the team was a captain. It was a big list. I mean, it was 8. I'm exaggerating, but it was a lot, and it felt like a little too much. Ben Johnson has said, captains are going to kind of pick themselves, as this preseason, this offseason goes on. But I'm just curious what you guys think, or who you guys think should be the captains, and is it a little more of a select list for you, and how do you see that playing out? Because I want to talk about this, man, because I think the leadership of this team is going to be the biggest factor in its success. We saw last year the lack of leadership was the biggest factor in its failures. You got the new head coach, you got guys that are stepping up, new veteran guys added. So, Kyle, Brandon, what do you guys think? Who do you think is going to establish themselves as captains for this team and the leadership group of this team that hopefully holds this thing together for an entire season?
Well, first off, man, I think having a handful of captains is a great thing, but I think 8 is far too many for sure. You don't want too many leaders in the same room, especially if you're in those moments where somebody feels like they need to step up and address the team as the leader. I mean, you can't have 8 guys drawing straws on who should be doing this task. But I do believe, especially barring injury, you want to have at least probably 3 on either side of the ball because, well, a guy is still a captain even if he's injured on the sideline. You want a captain on the field as well, right? So I'm going to go with Dustin, who I would imagine, because Ben Johnson was quoted saying these guys kind of identify themselves, they establish themselves as leaders, especially, but as captains, and then, they get the C on the jersey. And I'm going to go with the guys that I think would potentially kind of separate themselves from the rest of the group as leaders. And I'd say Caleb Williams for one, because...
Let's start with that. Let's just go one guy at a time. And kind of go around the board. Kyle, Caleb Williams is a guy that obviously needs to be on everybody's list, I think, for captains of this football team in this upcoming season.
I hope so. I hope he is. The quarterback should always be a captain on the NFL roster.
Yeah, as long as they are that guy, and Caleb was that his rookie season. He was the first rookie quarterback in Bears history to be named a team captain since they started designating captains in 2007, actually. So that was a big deal last year, and this year he should be taking steps forward. He should be a part of that leadership team. Let's stick on the offense. Kyle, who's your next guy besides Caleb Williams that you think will establish themselves as that captain, that leader on the field and in the locker room for the Chicago Bears team?
Joe Thuney. Joe Thuney is a guy who's played in multiple Super Bowls. He's been part of a winning resume his entire career. He's protected guys like Tom Brady. He knows what winning looks like. He knows what it takes to be a good player in the NFL, the work, the execution, the time. I think Joe Thuney is by default a captain for the Chicago Bears, and I think it's pretty much a guarantee that he will have a C on his chest to start the NFL season.
Yeah, he's certainly better. Brandon, you got Tony on your list, I would imagine.
Of course, yeah, with the winning experience, and he's also played the likes of Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, this guy has played with the best, for the best, won with the best. So
Or the best coaches
and
too.
and
Yeah.
he's been pretty well touted for already pulling some guys under his wing in practice. But I would say another guy that I would imagine is just the way he speaks. I think that he's going to be a coach at some juncture of his career is Cole Kmet. As long as he's on this roster, which I'm starting to feel real grim about, but as long as he's on this football team, he's a guy who kind of commands a room, and I think he's very high as football IQ. He doesn't make excuses,
Well,
man. He's very good at identifying where the Bears went wrong when they lose a game. I don't know. He just kind of, to me, has that coach mentality.
Well, you kind of switched it up on me there. I want to talk about Joe Thuney a little bit more because, like you said, he has played under Bill Belichick, Andy Reid, with those quarterbacks in Super Bowls. This guy has already established himself as a leader. By all accounts, he's a very smart dude. He's super intelligent. He's going to know what's going on the football field, and guys are going to look to him, especially whoever that left tackle is. It's probably going to be one of those young guys while Braxton Jones is getting it together, And so, I mean, he's going to be hugely important. And as we've said previously multiple times, you cannot underestimate the value that he's added to this team just in what he has up here. So he's a no-brainer at captain. Now you bring up Cole Kmet. I'm not with you there, to be honest, because I do think there is potential for him to be a little phased out. Now, in terms of those things that you said, those are 100% accurate. I agree with you. But if I'm only selecting 5 or 6 guys, Cole Kmet wouldn't be one of those guys for me, just strictly based on the fact that, I think DJ Moore is a better producer on the field, and I think he's a more vocal leader in times that they need it, and he leads by example, and he's just a respected dude in that locker room. So I would take DJ Moore over Cole Kmet if it were me, designated captains for the Chicago Bears. I mean, whatever. How do you feel about that, Kyle? Who are you looking at, or do you have both of them?
Well, DJ Moore would be my third captain if you're only picking 3 for sure, because first of all, he's probably the best offensive player on the Bears outside of Caleb Williams, which we hope, I guess, and Joe Thuney. And he's in a position where he's in a wide receiver room with a bunch of young guys, so it's time for him to step up and be the voice of reason for those guys, kind of like the Keenan Allen was last year. Now that Keenan Allen's gone here, he's going to have guys like Luther Burden, Tyler Scott, Rome Odunze asking him questions, and he needs to be kind of a player's coach. And like you said, Dustin, you don't have to be a rah, loud, screaming, yelling all the time type of guy to be a captain. You lead by example. Actions speak louder than words. By all accounts, yeah, DJ Moore is one of the hardest workers in the NFL. He's certainly one of the hardest workers on the Bears. He's one of the only Bears right now that we can tell has Pro Bowl potential going into this season. So, I mean, he's a guy who's seen success in the past. He's a guy who had success with a pretty terrible quarterback in Justin Fields. So, I mean, obviously the guy works hard. He knows what he's doing on a football field. And I think he's a guy that the young guys could lean on if necessary.
There's potential for disagreement here. Let me set it up, because DJ Moore last season had a lot of questions around his behavior on the field, right?
And in Carolina.
I'll say this. I don't give a shit. I never bought into it. But Brandon, I know you gave it more credence, and I know other Bears fans did too. You're not the only one that bought more into that body language stuff and maybe quitting on some routes when he didn't think he was getting the ball, or even when Caleb was getting him the ball. So you can make that case, Brandon. The floor is open for that, and I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, well, and this is
Erica,
the second.
What up?
This is the second football team that's addressed DJ Moore's body language. He had the same issue in Carolina too, but I don't know. What I was going to say is I believe that Ben Johnson is trying to mold DJ Moore into a captain, because it says, when you Google the subject, it says Ben Johnson warned DJ Moore about his body language and advised him to keep his emotions in check and to not express frustration on the sidelines.
And DJ Moore spoke on that, Brandon.
Yeah,
and that was an interesting press conference he had around that.
And saying don't express your frustration on the sidelines, I think, is Ben Johnson telling DJ, you're supposed to be one of the guys, man, who the other guys are looking to when the shit hits the fan. I want you to keep your shit in check. I want you to be that guy. So I think Ben Johnson's coercing him into a leadership role for sure, or coaching him into a leadership role.
I'm going to jump on that. Give me one second. Bruce says his captains for the Bears are obviously Caleb Williams, Jalen Johnson, Cole Kmet. He's only got 3 there. Bizzo Joe joined us. Erica, Squeegee. Thank you guys so much for being here. Please hit that like button if you have not already. We're going to keep the conversation going. DJ Moore's comments on what Ben Johnson said to him were interesting, Brandon, right? Because Ben Johnson has made it clear to not just DJ Moore, Kyle, but to Caleb Williams that body language does matter to him. If you're putting it on film, if you're putting it on TV for people to see and overanalyze, like DJ Moore did last year multiple times, and it did lead to a conversation in the city that does become a distraction for a team that's trying to win football games. So that is important. But DJ Moore acknowledged it and said that he's going to be focusing on that, Kyle. So do you foresee that being an issue with him in terms of his leadership capabilities is my question.
I mean, I guess it depends on your definition of body language. I mean, if he's like pouting and dragging his arms on the floor on his way off the field, yeah, that's something that should be addressed because that's not good for any business in the world. But I've worked with hundreds of guys who are leaders in workplaces who were not rah-rah guys. They didn't yell a lot. They didn't talk a lot. If you look at guys like Barry Sanders in the NFL, this is not a guy who was going in the locker room and rallying up the troops. This is a guy who went out there, did his job, handed the ball to the ref, went down on the sideline and sat on the bench. I mean, he's a leader. Like you said, Dustin, sometimes you just have to lead by example. The guy expected perfection on every single play, most importantly from himself more than anybody else. And I think DJ Moore is that type of guy. Now, I don't think DJ Moore, I mean, maybe not like where he's walking off the field in the middle of a play, you got to get rid of that stuff, but I don't think he needs to go to the sideline every single time and be like, all right.
Well, that
guys,
was an injury. That was an injury.
Yeah,
that was an injury at that time. That got made way bigger of a deal than it needed to be.
I guess it depends on your definition of body language. I mean, for me personally, a captain does not need to be some loud, rah-rah, let's go, guys, we could do this one play at a time type person. I think they just have to be the
That's
best
not what we're talking about, though. Listen, that's not what we're talking about. I hear you and I agree with you, but that's not really what we're talking about. I think part of leading by example in Ben Johnson's mind, based on the conversations that have happened, guys, is that body language does matter. And that is part of the example you lead by. If he had a conversation with DJ Moore about it, there's a reason for it. You know what I'm saying?
I guess I'd like to ask Ben Johnson, what body language is he referring to?
Well,
what exactly is he talking about when he says body language? He's talking about putting a towel over his head on the bench? Is that what he's talking about?
This isn't a Ben Johnson problem or a Bears problem, even, guys. This has existed since the beginning of DJ Moore's time. DJ Moore lost a football game.
He plays with his heart on his sleeve. He shows
lost
a lot of emotion.
Football game by removing his helmet early, getting penalized, and putting the team out of position to kick an extra point. I mean, he has been an issue. This has been an issue in DJ Moore's career. He did that in Carolina. It's not just a Bears problem. This is
a Bears problem now, and Ben Johnson's trying to fix it.
DJ Moore's had to address his entire career. He's been addressed by multiple coaches and throughout the entirety of his career. So, I mean, I don't know if he's first on my list unless Ben Johnson sees the results that he's asked for. That's why I think
that's what I think is going to happen, Brandon. And I haven't given it as much credence as you have or other people have, but it does matter. Obviously, that's the point I'm making. If Ben Johnson had a conversation with DJ about it, then it matters to some extent. There's a reason it was talked about, and then DJ Moore was asked about it and talked about it at the podium. You know, so do you see that prohibiting him from getting that C on his chest?
I'll say that I don't think when I watch DJ Moore, Dustin, and I love DJ Moore, man, I do. When I watch, and I don't think that his body language was detrimental to the team's overall attitude, but I do think this.
It was a symptom of the problems that were going on for sure.
I don't see a guy who wants to be a captain when I watch DJ Moore.
That's presumptive. His body language. That's presumptive to me.
I see a guy who'd rather just clock in, do his job, and clock out. I see the guy who refuses the promotion to keep playing his role. That's what I
think you're going a little far in saying that. I don't know. I think DJ is a leader on this team.
I'm just reading. I can't say definitively, but I don't know that he wants. I don't know that he wants that title. I don't know that he does. I think it'd be worth Ben Johnson asking.
He had it last year. He had it last year, and I think he'll have it again this year. And I think Ben Johnson will get the results from him that he is asking for. I do think if DJ Moore makes it a focus, it will be something that is fixed. But at the end of the day, he is who he is, and if he plays with his emotions, which you need to do, then shit like that's gonna happen,
like,
right?
You know, people. It's like the media made this story last year for DJ Moore putting the towel on his head or walking off when he was injured, and it's always about DJ Moore's so negative, body language,
quitting on that route. But
nobody ever talks about it's like all these guys.
I mean, he was visibly upset.
How many guys have character issues in the NFL that people don't use the same amount of time to talk about the extent of the DJ Moore body language conversation? You guys, if he's a quiet guy who's reserved, and after he finishes a play, his thing is to walk off of the field, sit on the bench, then that's who DJ Moore is. And if you feel like the only way he could be qualified to be a captain on the Bears is to be loud and rah-rah and super energized all the time, and
you
that's
keep
not
going to
is,
that, Kyle, but that's not the conversation. That's not
captain. I mean, you don't know. You have no idea what Ben Johnson qualifies as body language. You don't know. I mean, I don't know. Have you talked to him? I haven't talked to him.
I would imagine it's the things that were, put
Could
on
Luther
TV
Burden be a captain, even though he doesn't?
Last year, that's what Ben Johnson was talking to him about. He said, "Don't put it on film." He told him not to put it on film.
So that's like basically, to me, people are making that like, for example, all the scouts in college said Luther Burden didn't practice very hard. He doesn't like blocking on his foot. He's not getting the ball, stuff like that. That to me is more important than body language, right? Like that's more important than body language, stuff like that. Like if DJ Moore is working harder than anybody else in the building, he's the first guy in the building, the last guy out of the building, but occasionally he sits on a bench and puts a towel over his head. I don't care. I don't give a shit as long as he's still catching 900. 1,300.
Kyle, there's a part of me that's in agreement with you, but I just feel like you're not really addressing the conversation that we're
DJ
trying.
Moore.
And I don't know what conversation you guys. You guys define body language. Tell me what DJ Moore does that's so wrong. I think last year that was so wrong. Explain it to me.
Well, he wears.
I don't think he did very much wrong.
He visibly shows frustration.
Well, we've heard every sports writer in the world talk about his body language. What are they talking about? What did he do that they're so upset about?
Most athletic leaders don't visibly show frustration. They keep that to themselves.
Caleb did the same thing last year.
But what are you talking about? PCA slammed his helmet on the ground a couple days ago and it slicked.
But Kyle, I think
hit him in the face. Doesn't mean he's not a captain.
I think you're right in what you say with the rah-rah stuff. I think that DJ Moore is the kind of guy that mentors young players, but if he needed to like snap on people on a sideline sitting on a bench, I don't see that in DJ Moore. Well, I don't see him addressing a unit and telling them it's time to get I don't see him being it's time to get your shit together kind of guy. I don't see that.
That's why you hire Antoine Randall. That's why every position has a coach, because he's the guy on the sideline who's supposed to be like, hey, pull your head out of your ass and go do your job.
Okay, but the best leaders in the NFL in history, and Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, did this on a probably weekly basis.
No, yeah, for sure. And those guys are one in a million, to be honest. I mean, that's what Bizzo Joe says right here. He thinks Rome has more captain qualities than DJ.
But what that's
DJ would not be very high on my list, guys.
You're going exactly with the opposite of that's what I said. Like, I don't think it has to be a guy who goes to the sideline and starts yelling at everybody to be considered a good captain. I don't believe that. Maybe you do. That's fine. I'm totally fine with that. But like you say, he's not one of those guys who goes to the sideline and starts yelling at the wide receivers and being out of position. I don't think he has to be that guy to be captain on the Chicago Bears. For me personally, because I've seen guys at work who I've worked with, close and personal friends who are very good at their job. You guys saw it in the Trupa. There's some workers who are better than others who didn't go yell at all the shitty employees, but they were still could be considered captains for their department. Like, we've seen that before. It doesn't mean you're not a captain if you don't go to the sideline. Like, hey, everybody, get over here now. We had to have a conversation. That doesn't.
I think there's different ways to lead, and I think DJ Moore does it every day, but he'll never be able to do it when it's required at its peak. That's the way I see it.
But I mean, Brennan, what's the difference between holding somebody accountable via a personal conversation behind the scenes where nobody's here, or yelling at them on the sideline so all the cameras can see?
DJ could be having those conversations with Rome all season.
I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's doing it.
I would imagine he is, and we're not seeing that. And the cameras will pick up the bad body language when that happens and focus on that more highly. No doubt about it. But what it comes down to is this. I don't want to spend forever on this. We're picking 3 guys on offense, 3 guys on defense. That's what we're doing. We just did a tiebreaker, and it's DJ Moore. Cole Kmet, you were right, Brandon. He does break down things about what's going on in the locker room, what's going on.
He addresses the media in general in a more leadered attitude.
I don't know if that translates to leadership in the locker room, though. Just because he
DJ Moore's body language at the podium doesn't say leader to me. Nothing about DJ Moore says leader to me, except for the way he plays football.
I'll say this: the chat is agreeing with you, Brandon. The chat is agreeing with Brandon more so than us, Kyle. But I don't care. It is what it is. We got DJ
Brian Urlacher wasn't very entertaining at a podium.
Being a leader and being a mentor are two different things, though, man. You guys are talking about mentorship. You're talking about his mentorship over Rome Odunze. Being a leader of a team and a mentor to young players are two very different things. They are.
Well, if you're a wide receiver, you're gonna lead that wide receiver group, and honestly, that's the thing they need from DJ the most. You need him to have a positive impact on fucking Rome and on Luther Burden.
He very well be doing, and we just because
if the coaches pick him to be the captain, and listen, this is all speculation at the end of the day, and it's our preferences, it's our list, and unfortunately, it's a 3-person panel tonight, so we got a tiebreaker, and it's DJ Moore, and that's just what it is. Cole Kmet can be an honorary mention. I mean, I think Drew Dahlman is a guy that you could throw out there as well, and obviously Darnell Wright as well. So
yeah,
I mean,
Drew Dahlman would have been next on my list.
For sure. So I mean, but right now we got Caleb, obviously our quarterback. We got Joe Tooney, who I think is going to be the captain of this football team in general. The minute they traded for him, he became the ultimate leader of this team in my mind. And then we got DJ Moore. So those are our 3 offensive guys. Who wants to kick it off with your defensive?
I mean, I hope Caleb is the guy, like the top dog. Like, hey, Joe, I love you. You've a winning pedigree. You've got such an amazing, track record in the NFL. But I'm talking, so everybody should fuck up and listen because I'm the Chicago Bears.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah, you definitely need Caleb to be that guy. I agree with you, Kyle, 100%. But Joe Tooney will be in Caleb's ear. I imagine that, and hopefully
Caleb will lean on
Caleb.
Joe.
I think Caleb. I hope he does as well, and I think he will, and I think that will help him immensely in this sophomore season.
And Kyle, I do think Caleb does have that quality that you just aforementioned.
You have to, man. The quarterback has to be the only guy talking in the huddle.
Everybody needs to listen.
He's the only person who should be speaking in the huddle. That's it. Nobody else.
Eric, before we get into our defensive guys, are we done on the offensive conversation? I think we got our guys solidified, and
I expect completely 100%.
I like Eric's list.
If they did pick 3 offense, I expect DJ Moore, Caleb Williams, and Joe Tooney to walk on the NFL field in 2025 with a C on their chest. 100%.
Erica has TJ Edwards, Kevin Byard, and Grady Jarrett, and I like that list too. It's very similar to what I have in mind as well. But you guys can go ahead and jump us off. Let's start with the defensive line. Who do we got?
I think Grady Jarrett and Montez Sweat are both captains on this team when the C's hit the chest.
So then you're eliminating the linebacker position basically from having a captain. What if we pick one from each level though? What if we had to do that? If you got to pick one defensive lineman, one linebacker, one.
Grady Jarrett is the leader of that.
Grady Jarrett is my guy over Montez Sweat as the captain of the defensive line. Yes, that's who I would have as well. If we're only picking one for the defensive line,
Montez Sweat has already stated he's learning things from Grady Jarrett. He didn't think he'd learn from another player at this juncture of his career. So
that's the thing I'm most excited about with Grady Jarrett is what he can bring to these other guys on this defensive line and help them get better mentally at the game, Kyle. That's what I'm most excited about. Grady
basically
Jarrett
says he just listens when Grady Jarrett talks. So, I mean, that says enough, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like putting a gun to my head saying we're only picking 2 defensive linemen, I'm picking Grady Jarrett. I do think, or one, but I think it will be 2 season starts. I think Montez Sweat and Grady Jarrett will both have C's on their chest. I agree with Brent.
Yeah, for sure. But for this exercise, we're picking one. So it's Jarrett. If you had to pick one between Jarrett,
I mean, it's tough because Sweat has much more camaraderie with his team. He's been here for 3 years. He knows every single player on this team outside of the rookies.
Outside of the facility, most likely.
He knows everybody in the building, so it's tough. I mean, he's a guy who's probably been listened to before in that locker room, so people are probably used to it. And Grady Jarrett's guy who's coming in, and people are like, hey, I respect your track record. I don't know who you are or anything about you, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure at some point Grady Jarrett gets to the point where he's just leading by example as well. Like he probably calls people out.
He's already doing that. He's already doing that.
And he's a vocal.
I mean, he's been in the NFL for like 15 years. I would hope he's calling.
Yeah, he's a leader.
10-year vet. Yeah, he's a 10-year vet, guys. Like this guy's 31 years old. He's been around. He's played in the Super Bowl. If I was Montez Sweat, I would be looking to him for guidance. I would. If every defensive lineman on that Chicago Bears roster should be looking to Grady Jarrett for advice and guidance, in my mind.
But I do believe that outside of the conversation, obviously, Montez Sweat will be a captain.
I want it to be a little more selective, though.
I actually think Dustin.
I don't think a linebacker is going to be a captain for this.
If you look at the Lions last year, man, which was Dan Campbell's team, not Ben Johnson's, but this is how they did it. They did a captain at each level. You had a QB, an offensive lineman, or a pass catcher.
Yep, that's how I want to do this.
And then you had a defensive lineman, a linebacker, and a DB. That's how.
Well, I mean, Dustin said he didn't want Montez Sweat to be captain before the show started because he said he thinks he sucks. But I mean, the linebacking core, you can't point to anybody in linebacking core and be like, well, when they talk, people listen because they are perennial Hall of Famers. Like there's Pro Bowlers every year. It's just not there.
Kyle likes to kiss and tell. We have conversations beforehand. I do say things with levity, but I do think Grady Jarrett should be the captain over Montez Sweat, and that is the reason why I don't have Montez Sweat as a captain. If I'm picking at each level, Grady Jarrett takes that over Montez Sweat to me because I think this Bears team needed leadership, and that's why they went and got guys like Grady Jarrett and Joe Tooney. Montez Sweat has been here on losing teams, and there's been no leadership on those teams. So I think you need guys to establish themselves as those leaders.
And
I mean, that's like saying if any losing team in the sports doesn't have captain, I mean, it's not one player's fault that the team is losing. Caleb Williams is on the Bears.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all.
If
what
you,
I'm saying is that if you want to
very
change,
vocal about
you need to establish some leadership.
Montez Sweat. I'm not saying you guys.
If you talk
Montez
about
Sweat
players,
has underperformed for what he has paid and what the Bears
half
gave
the
up to
Bears
give
have
him.
underperformed. Tyreek Stevens underperformed.
Okay, but we're not talking about half the Bears. We're talking about Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat has underperformed.
That's
and
fine.
he's the highest paid player on the team.
All of the Bears have underperformed. TJ Edwards has underperformed. Half your chat is saying he should be a captain. Who cares?
I think TJ Edwards should be a captain as well.
He's underperformed.
Has been one of the more consistent players on this defense.
Yes,
if you look at these guys,
$78 million contract in a middle linebacker in the NFL, he has underperformed.
If you look at these guys,
you exchange love letters with Montez Sweat, Kyle. Jesus,
it's a guy, and his reason is 2023 he had the most sacks on the Bears. It's the most sacks on two separate teams in the NFL. He was top 10 and
6.5
at tackles for loss. Yeah. He was top 10 in quarterback pressures. He was top 10. He was top 10 in every.
We've heard you do all those 2023.
So I mean, but like for you to be like, well, he's 1 year removed from that. That means he's probably going to suck for the rest of his career, and he shouldn't be a captain. It's just dumb to me. There's no logic behind it. Everybody has bad seasons. Everybody in sports.
That's not the conversation I'm having right now. If I say something before we jump on the show, Cal, then that's different.
I have a feeling, Justin, even if you pick
but if we're talking about choosing between Grady Jarrett and Montez Sweat, to me it's Grady Jarrett. It just is because of his tenure in the NFL.
Okay, that's fine. And I'm saying that the Bears aren't going to think with that logic. They're not going to be like, we have to pick between two defensive linemen. If they think those are two of the best captains on the team, regardless of position, that's who's going to be the captain.
Of course not. They'll most likely do that. Montez Sweat will probably most likely be a captain for the Chicago Bears.
I was just going off the segment as who do I think is going to be the captain for the Bears? That's what I'm did.
No, we're going to be a little more selective here because we're trying to establish a leadership nucleus for this team that they can lean on that we think are guys that are going to step up. Listen, so I do want us to be a little more.
If you're watching these guys,
I think that could be Montez Sweat.
If you're watching these guys at the podium, Joe Thuney, Grady Jarrett, Kevin Byard, Cole Kmet, and Caleb Williams. I mean, those. If I'm looking at, I've managed some business. I can identify a leader. If you're looking, those are your leaders. I mean, those guys at the podium, those guys are addressing people. They are leaders. The way they speak, the way they carry themselves, they're leaders. I don't put DJ Moore on that list. I do, however, think that there was a lot of reporting when Montez Sweat came to this football team. The Tez effect, they called it.
Which the sacks went from less to 1 per game to over 2 per game the second he got here. Yeah, so you saw the Tez effect. Yeah, statistically, it's there.
Okay, I want to focus less on performance.
But Brennan, I've already
I've given you examples. I want to focus less on performance. What I meant by the Tez effect.
I've given you examples of guys at the podium who are not rah-rah, and you're like, but they were captains. So what merit does that hold? Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs were not guys who were like, everybody get your shit. They went to the podium. They're like, 1 game at a time.
I was about to state how I think Montez Sweat is the leader on this football team, but whatever. Take it away.
That's the direction I could tell you we're going, Brandon. Brandon wanted Montez Sweat on his list as well. Brandon had Montez
I was going to say the reports read that Montez Sweat took every younger player under his wing. So, like, regardless of how he presented himself in the media, because he's not a guy who likes to speak to people while being asked questions in front of a camera. He was on the field during practice. He was a guy who was presenting himself as a leader to the other players. But I do believe
working with Austin Booker.
I believe that there's guys who establish themselves as leaders over the media with the coaching staff and the roster as well. And I think that Grady Jarrett, Joe Thuney, Caleb Williams, Cole Kmet, these are the guys who address the media like they are in charge.
What I'm saying is the media. I understand your Montez Sweat point. What I'm saying is the media portion should mean absolutely nothing to you, Ben Johnson, or the teammates around them, because there's a lot of really good leader captain, like C on their chest captains, the history of football, who didn't go to the podium and were like super positive and like, we got to get better at this. We got to get better. They were like, hey man, I'm here to do a job. My job is to play football. I don't really give a shit about you guys. We're going to do 1 day at a time, 1 football game at a time, 1 play at a time. See you guys next week. I don't care about that. I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter. If when Brian Urlacher came out and had one of the best seasons in the history of linebacking in the NFL, what he does at the podium means nothing to me.
All right, let's move on from Montez.
No, listen, we agree with you on that.
Ugly.
And you yourself have already said in this conversation that you would choose Sweat. You would choose Grady Jarrett over Montez Sweat, correct? That's what you said at the start.
If you're picking one defensive line, yeah.
So again, and we can acknowledge that Montez Sweat is most likely going to be a captain on this team. I can, that will happen. But this is not about, this is just us picking our group of guys. And if we're going at these 3 levels, let's pick one guy at each level and let's go with that. Montez Sweat, I hope he has a fucking great season.
Yeah, I mean, guys, I just did it off the show that was put together. I mean, I didn't pick a linebacker to be captain. I guess I could just make one.
Okay, but yeah, I would hope you could come up with that on the fly. There's only
there's not a lot of, you're talking about the guys that they have to have these things to be considered a captain. Well, give me one in the linebacking core, Dustin. I want to hear, who's your linebacking captain?
It would be TJ Edwards for me.
All right, how's TJ Edwards in the media, Brennan?
To me, I've never made anything about how any of these guys are in the media, but he is a good communicator.
He addresses the room.
He's a good leader on the field.
He's in command of it, man. I think there's things that we're gonna. A leader can be very non-quantifiable, man. I think if a guy commands a room, commands attention from people, like Tremaine Edmonds does not, which we all know, right? We can't argue that. I mean, that guy is like watching paint dry when he speaks. But
I don't think that has anything to do with commanding a room, man. Lovie Smith was like watching paint dry. He commanded the fucking Bears. He went to a Super Bowl in 06, man. What are you talking about? You don't have to. What do you mean?
So what I'm thinking about when we're going through these different levels, like how we looked at DJ Moore, like how we looked at Caleb Williams, and like how we looked at Joe Thuney, and how we ultimately looked at Grady Jarrett, is who are the rest of the guys in that position group looking to for leadership? That's the way I'm looking.
I don't believe TJ Edwards is looking, or Tremaine Edmonds is looking at TJ Edwards.
Well, I think Tremaine Edmonds should be. I think TJ Edwards is the guy that can set the tone for that linebacker core. And I hope Ruben Hippolyte is too. And honestly, TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, that's kind of like a package deal, you know, and hopefully they're both helping out Ruben Hippolyte as he comes along. But at the end of the day, if you had to pick one from that group, would you pick Tremaine Edmonds over TJ Edwards to be a captain for your football team? You would take Tremaine Edmonds?
Because he's the Mike. Yeah, I'd take Tremaine Edmonds because he's the Mike. He's the one who has to tell everybody where they need to be every single play and what play they're running. So, yeah, by default, if you're picking between those two guys, I'm picking Tremaine Edmonds.
TJ Edwards wears the green dot, not Tremaine Edmonds.
Tremaine Edmonds was the Mike last year.
Tremaine Edmonds.
It's in front of me on Google right now. Okay. TJ Edwards wears the green dot.
Interesting. That I did not know. That's I don't know how many Bears fans knew that. So TJ Edwards was the guy calling the plays and
the guy relaying the plays.
Yeah, relaying the plays to the defense. Wow. And there's a reason for that, I would imagine, that they would shoot, because generally, Kyle, you are correct.
No, I mean, I'm looking right now. I typed in who is the Mike Edward or linebacker for the Bears. It says Tremaine Edmonds.
He's the Mike linebacker, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's the green
guy. He's telling everybody where to be, regardless of who's relaying the play from the coach to the rest of the team. He still says, "Move over, stay there, creep up, move back." Everybody, like, he's still that guy.
I mean, if you're just yelling at Brandon, that's weird. That's weird that a Will linebacker would.
It even says in this, what I'm reading right now, it even says the green dot almost always goes to the Mike linebacker.
Yeah, it does.
But for the Bears,
basically all the time.
For the Bears unit, for this Bears defensive unit, Edwards will relay the calls. This is what they're saying, right? I'm looking at this right now.
What does that say about Tremaine Edmonds, guys?
Maybe Tremaine Edmonds has poor hearing or something. I don't know, because he's the Mike linebacker. He's the guy who directs everybody on the field.
Real quick, guys.
Hold on. Edmonds is vocal and a leader that players trust, so he can thrive with the green dot. But between the two, you may say that Edwards is the headier. I don't know what that means. Headier.
Smarter.
Headier player. That's what this means.
He diagnoses plays better. His awareness is better, and
And then here, this is even if Edwards is relaying the calls, it leaves Edmonds now in a mode where he is able to think less. That's what this says right here. I don't know.
Well, that's what
what you're describing right now. Neither linebacker would be my captain.
Well, TJ Edwards is clearly carrying some extra water. Dante Purified checked in with this guy, so I just want to shout him out. And Dennis Moody, my man, says, "Good evening, you beautiful assholes." Caleb Sealing, Jordan Love. These people hate Caleb, apparently. We did a whole thing on this on Thursday, man. We could talk about it again today if we have the time. But yeah, that was complete bullshit. PFF is wrong for that one. Clearly a hack job.
Yeah. PFF.
And then Erica commented on it too. Caleb was the only one who PFF had bust as his floor, as we talked about. Like, if bust is Caleb's floor, Brandon, as you said very well, then bust is everyone else's floor too. Compare all the other guys to a quarterback in the NFL, and then Caleb is just bust.
And on the other side of the argument, if bust is the floor, then why not list a player who busted instead of, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
There are plenty of examples of busted quarterbacks.
They listed one for Drake May and Daniel Jones as his floor. So yeah, I mean it was clearly a hack job. But so listen, for me it would be TJ Edwards. The chat has thrown out a bunch of TJ Edwards as well. Brandon, I mean you're going TJ Edwards as well. So just like
it did say Tremaine Edmonds is a vocal leader, and I'm going to be honest, I've never seen that. I mean,
Tremaine Edmonds
that's from the Bears reports.
Tremaine Edmonds gets knocked unfairly. I've stuck by this linebacker.
He's just not very vocal from when you're watching him, but I guess it's reported that he is, man. So these are things we also just don't know. I don't know that he's vocal. It doesn't come off that way. It comes off very, the Bears, very reserved.
Oh, he was a captain last year for
Chicago Bears. Do you see before the play is snapped? You see Tremaine Edmonds going, "Hey, move over, back up,
Erica,
come up." That's his job. That's the Mike linebacker. That's what they're supposed to do.
I mean, you're supposed to get guys
by default.
up.
To me, that's your captain. If that's the guy they're looking to be like, "Hey, well, look at Tremaine. If you want to know where you're supposed to be, what position you're supposed to be in, what he thinks is about to happen," that by default to me is your captain. Because he's the Mike linebacker.
Take away the green dot from that Mike linebacker, Kyle, that says
just 15 years ago there was no green dot.
That says an awful lot. Then it was just communicated through hand signals, and that person still needed to relay that information.
And Tremaine Edmonds
certainly wouldn't be doing that shit.
Everybody around.
You can't hear it in his head.
That guy. He's still the guy who moves everybody around.
I agree with Erica here. Edwards over Edmonds, it's a no-brainer. I agree with you, Erica.
Yeah, you guys are talking about skill set. Yeah,
to me, it's Edwards. No, it's a combination of things, Kyle. It's leadership on
neither of them would be a captain on my
It's performance.
It looks like there's a lot of speculation.
If we're picking at each level, then you would have to pick one of them, and you would go.
That would be dumb for the Bears to do, right? Like, hey, just because let's pick a dumb guy in the Bears to be a captain.
Let's just talk about how dumb the segment is while we're doing it, Kyle. Let's do that.
They're speculating.
That wasn't the segment.
They're speculating that
we're doing right now.
They're speculating that
Dennis, bring it up on my phone.
Jesus Christ, man! They're speculating that Dennis Allen will, in fact, make Tremaine Edmonds the green dot wearer.
Okay, well, that would make sense because he is your Mike linebacker. Yeah, it totally would make sense. I don't know why he wouldn't have been last year. I did not know that even, and I watched every game. None of us knew that.
I actually remember it because there was one or two games where they allowed Tremaine Edmonds to wear the green dot, and they announced it, like they publicized it. Because
listen again, this is just for a segment for the show, guys. This is not like these are going to be the Bears captains. These are our captains based on these criteria that we're laying out. Cliff agrees with Erica. Vizzo Joe throws Edwards out there as well.
I think Edwards plays with a higher motor.
Laz says Edmonds needs to worry about shedding blocks and making tackles in the hole. Calvin C says Edwards is better. I'm going with TJ Edwards, guys. We got in my mind, we got to go with TJ Edwards.
One of your captains on the Bears is TJ Edwards. Let's move on.
And he was last year, right?
I think he plays with one of the highest motors on the defense. I think he has the most hustle. I think he's probably a top 5 player on that team when it comes to
Calvin.
There's just no quitting the guy. He busts his ass.
And he gets a lot of tackles. He gets to the ball often. He's always around the ball. And Calvin, Edmonds is a good player. I've defended Edmonds when nobody else was last year. I expected him to have a much better season last year, and I'm still hoping that he does in a new defensive system with Dennis Allen.
He didn't.
He did not. No, he didn't, and that's just the reality of it. But I still think Edmonds is a good football player. I still think he can be. So I agree with Calvin 100%.
And I've said this a lot, guys. I think the success and failures of the linebacking core relies heavily on a broken defensive line. If the interior defensive line is not doing their job, it makes it really
everything
hard.
else crumbles behind it.
I mean,
Really
you could make the same
linebackers
argument to why the middle linebacker, Mike linebacker, he did, which he's going to be. Vernon said he's going to be on this team. If you could make the same argument to why he would automatically be the captain as the quarterback, even if you don't have a very vocal quarterback, like you have a Mitch Trubisky or a Justin Fields or a Jake Cutler, they're all still captains.
Well, none of those guys were captains as rookies, Kyle.
Controlling,
but Kyle,
Tremaine Edmonds is not a rookie. He's not a rookie.
But
he's been in the NFL for 8 years. He's not a rookie.
Okay,
he's going to be calling the defense anyway.
If you're going to make that point,
he's the one bringing the play into the huddle, and he's telling everybody where to go. And look at me if you want to know what's about to happen here, where you should be lined up. Then how is he not the captain? That just doesn't make any sense, guys. It doesn't make sense. I'm not talking about skill set. I'm not disagreeing with the chat that TJ Edwards is a better player than Tremaine Edmonds. He absolutely is. But I mean, there's people who made arguments that there's been great middle. People say that Wilson was better than Mike Singletary. People think Lance Briggs was better than Brian
neither
Urlacher.
one of them.
By default, that's the captain.
People
he's
who
the one
think
captaining the team.
Better than Urlacher were very wrong, though.
Neither one of them.
I've heard it before.
Neither one of them.
It's not accurate. It's not.
Neither one of them called a timeout when Tyreek Stevenson was facing the wrong way.
Briggs until his retirement. Urlacher fell off hard, but yeah, in their prime, Urlacher was better.
You could not even compare the two.
Yes.
The reason Briggs was able to do what he was able to do was because of Urlacher. Go ahead.
That's taking away from Lance Briggs. Lance Briggs was a damn good linebacker. Regardless of who
they both were very good linebackers.
Damn good linebacker.
It's not
even when Urlacher was hurt, Lance Briggs was still an absolute stud of a linebacker. One of the best players in Chicago Bears history. Not even a question. Top 10.
All right, go ahead, Brandon.
I'm going to speak real quick, guys. Would it be okay
to say for 10 minutes while I listen?
Would it be okay to say that nobody on this defense was very, very much of a leader last year? I mean, is that opposed? I mean,
for sure.
One of the players on the biggest play of the game had their back to the play, and nobody called a timeout. Not just
nobody called that player out either. The leadership on this team was rough all around last year. That's why I think that this is an important conversation to have. And again, it's all in fun, and it's just speculation. So let's have some fun and let's fucking speculate, guys. We had a question from Phil that I wanted to get to, but let's pick our secondary guy first. Kyle, who do you got? Who would be your captain in your secondary if you're picking from that level?
Jalen Johnson.
Jalen Johnson. I'm with you there. Brandon, who you got?
Kevin Byard.
So Brandon's going Kevin Byard, a veteran in the league. Definitely showed good leadership last year, I thought. He was a guy that tried to keep this locker room together as much as it was falling apart. But Jalen Johnson is the guy that did stand up and call Eberflus on his bullshit in the locker room in front of everyone. And that's what everybody on that team wanted to do.
Yeah,
so I think
that was a me thing too, though. To be honest, I think that was an example of Jalen Johnson's me.
But you go too far the other way, man. Because like you're saying like that Jalen Johnson is just being selfish in that act, and I just don't agree with you. I feel like that's a
I listened to Jalen Johnson do an interview every week on The Score for 2 years, and he's most of the things he speaks about revolves around his own achievements, what he's going to be, what he's going to achieve, what. Kevin Byard to me is less that way.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
Jalen Johnson is the guy. It's not even close to me. Jalen Johnson is your leader of that secondary. Jalen Johnson is the best player in that secondary.
He's the best player on the Bears, guys.
Yeah, he is. He is. As of right now, besides, Caleb Williams, who should have started, and now we've added Joe Thuney. I think those guys he was last year for sure, but he was certainly the go-to guy in that locker room for guys to vent their issues, it seemed like to me, because he spoke for a lot of Bears players last year on multiple occasions when other guys were not speaking up. Jalen Johnson, if anything, you might not like the way he says it, and you might not like the way he comes off, but he's going to speak his mind, and I really love that about him, and that's what I want in a leader.
Who were the captains last year on the defense?
It was Byard, it was Edwards, it was Edmonds, and it was Jalen Johnson and Montez Sweat. Yep.
There was 5 on defense, 3 on offense.
It was all the guys I picked.
Yep. Well, that was last year, and this is now. And again, this is just for fun.
If one of the linebackers is a captain, my money's on Edmonds. But
all right, but you got overruled, so that by the chat and by.
Let's see who's either I'm right or everybody in the chat. You guys are wrong. I think it'll.
I gotta disagree with you, Vizzo Joe. I don't think any one player got Matty. I think Matt Eberflus got.
I think Matt Eberflus got himself fired. Yeah, for sure. Relentless Mikey says JJ's an alpha. Byard is a captain. It takes nothing away from either of them. I mean, yeah, that distinction.
I agree with that statement.
That's a very beautifully
spoken
statement because it Byard can be out front in that professional way a little more, probably. You know what I'm saying? But Jalen Johnson is the guy that kind of
leads by example,
motors that
by the way
secondary.
he plays. I think there's
He commands.
There's guys
sure.
who
Your
lead
core-
through the way
core
they play
players should be your
football.
captains, not rentals.
I think there's
Core players
guys
should be captains.
who lead.
That's a good point. Well, that's
and
why
how
Edmonds.
guys who lead in how they play and guys who literally lead in what they say. And I think Kevin Byard's more that than Jalen
If
Johnson.
you're making rental players or bench players captains, then you got to change your captain every year. If you're making guys who are under contract for 6 years and you know are here to stay because one of the best players on the team captains, then you just keep the same captain.
Well, that was a problem I had with Mercedes Lewis last year, Kyle.
But if you're making
him a captain,
but if you're making Kevin Byard, but if you're making
pretty much a rental.
Yeah, and they made him a captain, and that was a bad decision. That we said that at the time when they announced their captain.
I agree. That's dumb. Why would you make a guy captain and you're like, but he's not going to be here next year? Kevin Byard's not going to be here next year.
But if you're making a guy a captain the year you acquire him, it speaks for itself. You see leadership quality in that individual. Kevin Byard was on this team for about a week before they determined he would be one of the captains on this football team. It speaks to who he is as a person, not as a player, as a person.
I think
he holds that quality within him.
I think either one of them could be and probably will be. This is like, again, that Grady Jarrett, Montez Sweat conversation. They both are the Bears going to have 8 captains again this year? I don't know.
No,
and they can have as many.
No way.
They can have as many as they want. I don't really give a shit. All I'm saying is if I had to pick between Byard and Jalen Johnson, I would pick Jalen Johnson, and so would Kyle. So that means that Jalen Johnson is our pick for this segment because that's the way we're rolling. But either one of them could be a good candidate for that. And the same with Montez Sweat and Grady Jarrett, guys. It's just about being selective and our preferences at the end of the day. That's what it comes down to. And me and Kyle are in agreement on Jalen Johnson. And I think that Jalen Johnson will establish himself as a leader on this team again this year. He will be a guy that Tyreek Stevenson looks to. He will be a guy that Kyler Gordon looks to. These guys.
Jalen Johnson is the reason that the Bears fans know what was. He was the first one to come out and say, we're not fixing mistakes in practice. I mean, Jalen Johnson is not afraid of consequence if he thinks it's betterment for the team. Mm-hmm. He could have got suspended for coming out and saying that shit, but he was like, I don't care. I want this team to be better. That is a leader. Yeah. That's a captain.
He's come out and said, I'm sick of fucking losing. I want to win.
That's a captain. That's the guy who's
what
like,
I want.
And we captain. All behind me. We all want to win football games. I don't give a shit about anything else. We're here to win championships. That's what we want. And we're sick of losing.
Yeah, he's like, I ain't in this game to keep losing. That's exactly what he said, and that's what I want to hear from leaders of my football team because it is all about winning football games.
They asked him 3 weeks ago, "What do you think about the potential?" He's like, "I'm done with potential. I've heard this shit before. I've been here a long time.
It was like
I'm sick of losing. I'm sick of losing." That's a captain. That's a leader.
Yes, and I agree with that. And so for us, then on defense, it's Grady Jarrett, it's TJ Edwards. Took us a lot of vitriol to get here, and it's Jalen Johnson. And on the offensive side, it's Caleb Williams, it's Joe Thuney, and it's DJ Moore. I guess you could say Cole Kmet was an honorable mention. You could say that.
It sounds like we've made the best. We've definitely just made the best performer at each level the captain.
Okay, so you have an issue with our list then?
Well, I don't think we went by leadership quality. I think we went by the skill of the player.
No, but I think the way you define leadership quality is a little different than the way I'm defining it.
I don't define it in how they play. I define it in how they carry themselves.
We just talked about Jalen Johnson and what his leadership qualities are.
Cole Kmet is more of a leader than DJ Moore. There's no doubt.
DJ Moore gets shit on unfairly, man, and I think he's going to show people that again this year. More was made of that than it needed to be last year, and people can still make whatever they want of it. But DJ Moore is a damn good player. He's a respected player in that locker room. He is a leader in that locker room, and he's a good father. He's good in the community. This guy is a guy you want to have out in front of your football team. Period. And because he walks off the field because he hurt his ankle. That does not make him not a captain.
His helmet off and loses a game. Yeah.
Oh, what he did in Carolina is none of my fucking concern, bro.
And he does. None of my concern. About the play that precedes that. They lost the game without DJ Moore as well.
Yeah, he made the play
touchdown.
But either way, it's irrelevant to me. He didn't do that in Chicago.
His physical abilities.
Laz says
all there.
Laz says Jarrett and Thuney should be the only 2 captains. I'd be with that. I'd be all for that. Honestly, I would. I would just those two
Caleb
guys.
Williams has to be a captain. As your quarterback, Caleb Williams has to be a captain on the Chicago
Well,
Bears.
me and Erica have been simpatico.
A captain on the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And the fact that a Bears fan wouldn't want Caleb Williams to be a captain on the Bears is strange.
He's just all about the trenches, is what it seems like to me. The big uglies and where football is won. So he's given that a lot.
The most
I want Caleb to be the best captain, the best quarterback, the best teammate, the best everything.
Those two guys have the most experience
for the quarterback for the last 50 years. That's what I want.
While me and Erica have been in agreement on every disagreement we've had so far, she's in agreement with Brandon on the Komet over DJ, and that's it. It's close. But again, guys, there's a possibility Komet's not on this team during this season. That possibility exists. As much as nobody wants to acknowledge it, that possibility exists.
I think it very much does. I don't know that it would affect their making him a captain or not.
Well, obviously they're not thinking we're going to trade him, so let's not make him. We might trade him, so let's not make him a captain.
Yeah, I think there's a big chance he's not here
again. But here's what we're saying though: all these guys we just went through, and the 6 guys we picked 6 guys. There's 4 guys left off this list that people are upset about. So are the Bears going to have 10 fucking captains? I don't think so. Guys.
Good problem to have.
For sure. That means that there is better leadership on this team than there was last year. To me, that's what it means. We won't trade him, Calvin says. Listen, I think it's a possibility. We'll see what Colston Loveland does, and we'll just based on Ben Johnson's history of taking over a team with a tight end of that same kind of ilk and trading them mid-season and replacing them with a younger, more athletic tight end that fits his offense better. I think that's something to consider.
There was a report of Bleacher Report. It didn't state it as a fact. It was speculation, but it said if the Bears are receiving calls about Cole Kmet, they're answering them. That's like basically what it said.
Oh, and will you be stupid not to?
Phone calls on everybody but Caleb.
You'd be stupid not to. Yeah. And Erica says, how about they compete for captain? Make them all. They 100% are, and that's what's great about our coaching staff that we have. And Ben Johnson, they will compete for everything and earn everything. So
Ben Johnson got 3 first-round pick off for DeAndre Swift. He'd be gone tomorrow. If you got the same offer for DJ Moore, he'd be gone tomorrow.
Erica, I said when the segment started, Ben Johnson, it's not even making them compete. Ben Johnson said those guys will establish themselves. And that's more what I was focused on, like I said earlier, is these are the guys who I see it in, the guys who established it themselves already on this football team. These are the guys who I think carry leadership qualities more so than on the field, like more so off the field than on the field. On the sideline more so.
I think it needs to be a combination of both, though. It needs to be a combination of both, Brandon. To me, it does. So I mean, again, we have different ways of defining it. Relentless Mikey says, I also don't think we need 10 captains. It looks like a clown show. Last year was too much, I thought, with 8.
Yeah, there's no way it's not going to be 8.
I wanted us to winnow this list down to 5 guys because I really wanted to be selected.
All right, then take Edwards out.
Actions speak louder than words. Lead by example. There's a reason those quotes exist, man. It's because if you can be like a captain type guy, but listen, if you're a shitty player, who on the field is going to be listening to you?
Real quick. The Cubs.
That's a very good point, Kyle. The Cubs
were in a 7-game series.
I'm not listening to that guy.
The Cubs were in a 7-game.
The captain,
the Cubs were in a 7-game series in 2016. The Cubs were in the middle of Game 7. They had a small rain delay. They went to the locker room, and a player who probably performed the worst throughout that 7-game series, and Jason Hayward, sat the team down and said, "Get your shit together. We're going out here and we're winning this fucking game and we're winning the World Series." Jason Hayward was not the best performer on that baseball team. He wasn't even close to it. He was probably like 10th best on that baseball team. He was a guy who
Jason Hayward had at the end of his career, though.
He was a guy. He was a guy who had the initiative. No, he was the guy who thought to do it. That's my point.
No, for sure, and you need those guys. But Jason Hayward had the clout.
If it never rains that day, JC Hero is just a useless player on the Cubs and a waste of money for the last 8 years.
No, listen, I think Jason Hayward had the clout to say that. I think the guys in that clubhouse respected him because of what he had done in his career.
Part of the reason they respected him is because he's been there for so long, which is kind of the point I was making.
That's why Joe Tooney is your number one, because he's not only one of the best players on this football team, he's been around the longest.
Squeegee says we won't trade Kmet. We just gave him a $50 million extension. That was 2 years ago that was signed.
I think that's some
Going through
incentive to trade him,
2027, yeah, and it's about $10 million per year, basically, is what it boils down to for the next couple of years.
I think you don't think that's swaying on Ryan Pohl's decision to trade him.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about paying multiple, and I don't know, man. The rookie contract with Loveland helps for sure. It's just about how much do you need to pay a backup tight end? $10 million for a backup tight end seems a little steep to me.
You got to be careful when you get those big contracts. You get added to that list, man. You get added to that trade list, unless you're a guy like Caleb Williams.
Erica says, I don't think Ben is 100% sold on Kmet, so he'll probably be gone after this season unless he has a breakout year. I think it's pretty safe to say that he wasn't sold on Kmet if he drafted a tight end at number 10 in the draft, guys. I feel like that's a safe assumption.
I think a breakout year would maybe serve the other purpose. Is a breakout year more
you can get more
to
for
get rid
him.
of Cole Kmet.
Yeah, potentially. And Laz says Captain Cairo. See how he exploded with the game-winning kick in Green Bay. So we got to get Cairo as our special teams captain. Cairo.
There's a language barrier there, though.
Mm-hmm. Football is life.
He's got a broken English, that's for sure.
Guys, our captains are our captains. It's just a segment. Again, Montez Sweat will be a captain for the Chicago Bears. I think we all know that.
I think
Kevin Byard will be a captain. But
if they're picking a linebacker, it'll be Edmonds over Edwards.
We'll see about that. I don't know. I think Edwards has shown himself to be a better fit for that role.
You got to pick one on FanDuel.
And if I'm picking TJ Edwards.
I'm picking that.
That's who I'm picking. So I mean, and listen. We'll see how it plays out. At the end of the day, like Brandon was saying, and this is the best point to make about this whole thing, is that the leadership on this team has expanded so much and so well because of the additions that they've made in coaching and players that they've added, veteran players that are going to make huge impacts in that role, that it's a good problem to have. I don't want to have 8 captains, so I hope they don't go too crazy with it. You're going to have to be selective, but whoever the guys are, they will be guys that earn it, like Erica said. Ben Johnson will make sure of that. They will have earned it. They will be those right guys for this team in this season. And I have confidence in that based on the leadership at the head coaching position, guys. I think we can all kind of fall there and agree at least, right?
Yeah. I think the guys who are leading this team at the coaching level are guys who are very aware of what a leader is. And that might be the first time we can say that in a while, man.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Kyle, any closing thoughts on that?
I was screaming for Ben Johnson months before the Bears.
I'm talking about the Randall L's, the enemies.
People were talking about.
Just knows what a leader is.
Can he be a leader of men? I mean, I just don't. To me, I think it's like you said, Dustin. Sometimes actions speak louder than words. Sometimes your reputation speaks for itself. Sometimes it's just people are.
It was a legitimate concern because there's a lot that you have to do as a head coach, Kyle.
Well, and hold on. And sometimes
he's already respected just to the fact
for sure he is
most innovative offensive.
Shut down those doubts, but those doubts were legitimate to have.
Not for me, but yeah, I understand the
but Kyle, actions speak louder than words, but results speak louder than actions. If Ben Johnson ain't winning football games, I don't think
he's had a top 3. He's had a top 3 offense in the NFL for the last 3 years.
Okay, that's different, man. We
Tom
know.
G.
But if that's all you have to go off when you're hiring a head coach who's never been a head coach,
dude, are you disputing?
All you have to go off of is what he's done in the NFL.
Okay.
You can't project.
If he starts 0-8, can we maybe question his leadership a little bit?
Well, it depends.
That open for
obviously there's a long season ahead of us, guys.
Yeah,
up to this point, Ben Johnson has aced the test for me. That's all I know. And I did have doubts, Kyle, and I'm not ashamed to say it, and I fucking should have. This is the Chicago Bears, who have not had a good leader in this building and have not hired a new head coach has no experience, and it's worked out in my fucking lifetime since Lovie Smith. That was it, right? Can you name it?
I'm just I wouldn't. I will never.
That concern is legit.
I will never judge Ben Johnson and his pedigree and what he brings to the table here based off of what the Bears have done in the past. Just like I would never.
Well, those two things.
I would never. I would, like when they're hiring Ryan Poles. I wouldn't be like, well, Ryan Poles is going to suck because
head coaches need to be developed. Head coaches need to be developed. Head coaches need to be developed. New GMs
all I'm
need to
saying
be developed.
is there was 2 sides to the argument.
That's on the franchise to do that.
There was a lot of people who wanted Mike Vrabel. There's a lot of people who wanted Ben Johnson. Now Ben Johnson's here, and everybody loves Ben Johnson. That's what I thought was going to happen.
There was a lot of people that wanted Justin Fields here and didn't want Caleb Williams, and now they're fucking happy to have Caleb Williams.
Regardless, people ate it. So you got to eat it. Eat it.
But what do you?
Go ahead. Take out a plate, Kyle.
But what do you think? But what do you think the projection
a
is?
lot of things Kyle's been right about.
And I'm going to say this right now.
The best coaching candidate available. I said it since day one. The Bears hired him. He's been nothing but improved, but nothing but proof that he was a great hire since they hired him. I mean, you guys, I talked to you guys about this when we were in the offseason. Like, give me your definition of leader of men, captain. All this. Vernon's talking about media. How are you doing in front of the media? You're talking about stats.
What are the results for the Patriots, Kyle? I mean, are they going to be a team that just falls apart?
What do you mean?
You want to talk about
Caleb Williams? Do you question the leadership?
I think Ben Johnson is better for Caleb Williams than Mike Vrabel.
Do you question the leadership on the Patriots right now?
No, I don't question leadership on the Bears. Never did.
And I also
Komet's extension was 2023, but he's had 2 years on it, and he's got 3 years left. It was a 5-year extension.
I think I've also embraced trusting Ben Johnson more than the average fan. I mean, there's so many people in here saying Colston Loveland's a bust, a bad pick. He shouldn't have. I'm
could be.
I'm all in.
I mean, you can't. You don't
I'm
know.
all in. I'm all in now.
So
you don't know.
Let's go forward and let's see what happens. At the end of the day, the point I was just trying to make is that whoever the captains are on this team, I'll be confident in them a lot more than I was last year because the leadership. I mean, honestly, you could have replaced Eberflus with a fucking gorilla, and I'd feel more confident. Okay, so it's not a high bar, Kyle. It's not.
Yeah,
Ben Johnson
to be honest
has
with you guys,
aced that test.
I really don't care.
Up to this point.
I don't think the captains on the field mean as much to NFL as people think. I think ultimately it's if the coach is a good coach and he knows what he's doing, if he's a really good coach and he decides that Tyreek Stevens should be a captain, then you wouldn't question it, right? You'd be like, well, he's a really good coach. The Bears are winning. He knows what he's doing. If he believes Tyreek Stevens a captain, then he's probably a captain.
I don't really care who the captains are either, but Vizzo Joe says it right here. Good discussion for the offseason. Got to talk about something. Good show, guys. Thanks for not taking a hiatus. It's just something to talk about. At the end of the day, the team needs to just play well. And that's not going to really be dependent upon who the captains are. But it will be dependent upon the leadership, Kyle, because when things happen that are adverse situations, the leadership needs to step up on this team. And last year they did not. They slunk back.
I don't put any of that on any of the captains on the Bears roster. Anything that happened last season.
I put it on the entire franchise. I put it on the entire franchise.
So you're each player and
everyone, all the players,
regardless of
the coaching, the management, owners.
I think they lacked leadership on the field, though, for sure.
Well, it's the same guys we're picking to be the captain.
Well, I think that leadership is top down, man. It's a trickle down. No, it's a trickle down effect. It starts at the top.
When Joe Jr. and Grady Jarrett are not the same as what
it's not very much the same at all. That's a big
but Cole Kmet and Montez Sweat and DJ Moore and there's all the guys that were here last year when this was falling apart, man. Let's take care of one of our loyal chat members here, a guy who came out to River Street with us on the draft night and hung out with us, and Phil. He's asking, he asked this question before and I wanted to get to it and we weren't able to. He's asking it again. How about surprise players on both sides of the ball? Rookies included. Everybody just pick one. Pick one. I'll start. Yeah, Austin Booker. There you go. Me and Brandon both throw out Austin Booker. Defensively, I think he's going to make a huge leap this year, and I am excited to see what he does.
He's going to get a lot of snaps.
And I think he's got the abilities and the talent to really get after the quarterback. If that's all he's asked to do,
he played more than the average. He played more than the average project rookie would. You know what I mean? He played a decently.
Yeah, he got thrown into the fire last year, and he didn't perform well at times, and other times he flashed. I think he's going to flash a lot more this year. Kyle, who's your guy on defense?
Tyreek Stevenson.
Okay, I like that. I think Tyreek is in for a big year too, and then I'll just throw out a bonus. Javon Dexter, I think, will be the best defensive lineman on this football team this year. I am excited to see what he does this year as well. So I think we got some high upside potential with
Ruben Hippolyte.
Listen, Ruben
surprised you by how much he sucked.
I read an article today. that Ruben Hippolyte is like the surprise player to watch for the Chicago Bears in this upcoming season.
That would be gravy.
Yeah, it would. Give me a second, guys.
All right, Kyle. What about offense?
Offense.
Surprise this year on the offensive side. Not surprise. So you can't say like Darnell Wright as an all-pro. It's got to be something that literally surprises you yourself.
Kyle Monangai.
Okay, wait. Mean what? He carves out a starting role, or he's
David Montgomery of the Lions.
Double-digit touchdowns?
No, because I think they'll ease him in. I think he'll only get really start getting real playing time around week 8, 9.
Do you think he'll take those goal line carries from Roshan?
Roshan will take them first, but later the later the season goes, I think he'll take them from Roshan.
The goal line carries?
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy that Ben Johnson and this coaching staff chose to be here. They didn't choose Roshan Johnson.
Let me ask you this. Can Kyle Monangai evolve into a quality pass catcher?
Yes.
That would surprise the hell out. I mean, if this guy can provide what DeAndre Swift provides and the runs between the tackles, he's the best 7th-round pick in maybe Bears history, dude. No joke. Because
I mean, all we've heard about him from training or from the OTAs and mandatory minicamp is that he has really good hands. I mean, that's all I can go off of.
Well, Bieniemy does not accept. I mean, he does not accept mediocrity at that level of the position. He wants a guy who can catch the ball and pass protect. And as we know, Kyle Monangai can pass protect. There's no doubt there.
Kyle said Kyle Monangai?
Yeah, Kyle Monangai carving out himself as the goal line carry and a pass catcher on this football team.
We got breaking news. Bruce throwing out Rome Odunze. That's my guy. He's going to be the best receiver on this football team this year.
Yeah, but would that be considered
I don't know. Yeah, Monangai's much more of a surprise.
Yeah, I think most Bears fans expect Rome Odunze to be really good, considering he had a good rookie season. He was the 9th pick in the draft. Monangai was the 7th-round pick.
But it was a disappointing season compared to the guys that were drafted around him before and after him, Kyle. It was.
I mean, if you're on the outside looking in, but not if you're a Bears fan, because you know that he was stuck behind Keenan Allen and.
Yeah.
All right, I don't know if this is.
I had no complaints about Rome Odunze.
He says Swift will be a surprise with a new O-line and Bieniemy. I love that answer too.
I don't know if this is going to be a surprise because he's projected to be what he was drafted to be. I think even with a slow start and not being able to practice yet, guys, I think Colston Loveland's going to have an immediate impact. I think your surprise is going to be how immediately Colston Loveland impacts this football team.
Colston Loveland's going to lead this team in touchdown catches this season. He will be their number 1 red zone target. I've been saying that. I'm with you.
I think Colston Loveland's going to have a big preseason. It's going to open people's eyes to his abilities.
He's going to be here for all of training camp as long as everything goes well with his recovery, which it looks like it is. He should be ready for training camp, and that'll be more than enough time for him to get acclimated to this offense. Erica throws out Zacchaeus. Okay, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I like it.
Zacchaeus. I've said this before. I like the signing. I actually texted you guys halfway through last year. This guy will be available. I wouldn't mind seeing the Bears give him a shot. They didn't spend too much money on him. There are risk of injuries at this position in the NFL. We know that. Zacchaeus had a game last year against the Philadelphia Eagles defense with 8 catches for 89 yards and 2 touchdowns. He showed out that day. It was against a quality defense with quality defensive backs. I think he can be an impact player on this football team.
I would love to see it. We'll see. That would mean Luther Burden is not making much of an impact, though. That's for sure. Just by
or
virtue of mass,
somebody's injured.
Yeah, and that somebody could be Luther Burden.
Braxton Jones with only
this is the one I wanted to get to. Relentless Mikey. Braxton Jones with only 1 sack allowed. That is a shocker. I would love to see
Relentless Mikey. You're shooing in Braxton Jones as the starting left tackle.
Let me give my guy because I think this one is fun. I think Luke Newman will have to make an impact this season. I think people are going to be very surprised by how well he performs when he gets thrown into a starting role.
At center or guard, Dustin?
I don't care where, honestly. I think more likely guard. Center's a lot harder to pick up early on in your career, man.
Yeah, I think Jonah Jackson's a much bigger.
Yeah, Jonah Jackson is a guy who has been injured, and so the potential for an injury to happen there is real. I mean, Tooney not so much, but you never know. But
I love Luke Newman, man.
If Luke Newman gets thrown into action early on, I think he's going to impress early on. I think this guy is made to play guard in the NFL, and that would be a huge surprise, I think.
Okay. Kyle Monangai's a quality spell back.
Mikey thinks
Luke
it's
Newman gets a
Braxton's spot
chance
to lose.
Absolutely. Ryan Poles sticks with this guys. He's not going to turn his back.
Kyle went with Tyreek Stevenson. Tyreek Stevenson is my guy as well, man. I hope I can't wait for him to have a great season and get past all this bullshit of his
all right, here's a surprise on defense, guys. Jaquan Brisker plays a full season.
Okay, so then you expect this Bears secondary to be pretty damn good.
I expect if Jaquan Brisker can stay healthy for him to blossom into one of the better players in the NFL. I think he could finish as a top 20 safety in the league for sure. I think he.
Thanks for the question.
Last year he was ranked like 170th or something like that. Man, I think the guy can bring himself up to the top tier of safeties in this league. for sure.
Phil, that was a very good question, man. Thank you. We've talked about that a little bit, but it's always fun to kind of throw those things out. Kyle, you got any more before we move on?
No, that's all.
Okay. So, Brandon, you said you picked Colston Loveland.
Yeah, I did that on purpose.
Yeah, but I wish you would have waited a little longer.
Yeah. I didn't know we were going to keep going. I thought that was going to be.
I hadn't given mine yet, man. But yeah, Colston Loveland is a guy Brandon brought up as his surprise pick, and he's a guy we want to talk about. So that's a good segue, man. There was what was from Bleacher Report, Brent Sobleski, right, Brandon, that put out an article about. I think the premise was rookies most likely to fail their rookie season. To disappoint would be the word that he used. Okay, and Colston Loveland was on that list. I'll just say this right off the bat: I disagreed with basically everyone this guy listed, so I don't give a lot of credence to the article. But I do
like disappointing in what? Like, what were his thresholds?
In terms of performance, he doesn't like list stats or anything.
Won't perform as a first round.
Yeah. And what he talked about in the article, Brandon, right, was the fact that he wasn't at OTAs, that he's hopefully ready.
A lot about his health,
training camp, that he's behind, and that the tight end position is a harder one to transition to in the NFL because you're not just thinking about the passing routes and the schemes in the passing game, but you're also concerning yourself with the blocking schemes. So it's a traditionally tougher role to transition from college to the pros in. So he thinks that puts Loveland behind the 8-ball, basically. And then I just really want to get you guys' thoughts on that and the chat's thoughts as well. And let me just say real quick, man, the chat was awesome in that last segment, throwing out their answers for who they think should be captain. Very good conversation, guys.
You guys are always awesome.
Yeah, man. Appreciate the engagement. If you haven't hit that like button yet, please do so. We're happy you're here. We're going to keep going, and please get engaged in this.
We love you.
Well, so let's hear your thoughts, guys, on Colston Loveland and whether or not Brent Sobleski is an idiot, because I think he is.
Well, real quick, Relentless Mikey says, conversation point, Jaquan is the secondary captain because you saw how much they suffered without Jaquan when he went down. I was going to say the same thing about Andrew Billings, Mikey. Andrew Billings is a guy who I think might be a potential captain, but I don't know if a one tech, man, it's hard to make because those guys just go so far under the radar. Their stats don't jump off pages. They just do their job and get the hell off the field. But Kyle, let's go ahead and start off with the projection here for Colston Loveland being one of the top 10 disappointing first-round picks in the NFL this year.
I mean, I don't know, man. I'd have to know what he means. I mean, like if Colston Loveland had 600 yards and 4 touchdowns, that wouldn't be disappointing to me. That'd be a player who's a rookie and coming to his own in the NFL and is showing signs that he's going to get better in the future and going to only build off that. So, but would that be disappointing to him? I don't know. I guess it depends on what he expects a good top 10 pick season to be in terms of tight ends, because you can't really quantify a tight end success to an offensive tackle or a guard or a cornerback. I mean, I think Colston Loveland's going to do exactly what I expect him to do. I think he's going to be not involved in every single play because it's going to take him a little bit longer to learn the playbook because he's a rookie, which should be expected, right? I mean, very rarely do rookies come in and are like the best player on the team. But if he's saying like anything less than 800 yards and 10 touchdowns is disappointing, that's not for me. But I don't think he's going to have 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. No, I don't think he's going to be. First of all, I mean, I'll say this, guys. To the point that he's missed all this time with his injury, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but it's certainly not good. I mean, if you had to say, is this benefit him or is it a detriment to him? It's not his fault. The Bears picked him. They knew he had an injured shoulder, but it definitely doesn't help him. I mean, I think you need as many on-field reps as you could possibly get to build some cohesion with your quarterback. But I mean, I can certainly go over the list of first-round tight ends right here, and there's a lot of busts. I mean, a lot of them. The tight end position is very tough in the NFL. It's a very, very tough position in the NFL. There's a ton of busts on it. Since 2000, some 25 tight ends have been drafted in the first round, and about 80% of them are not good players in the NFL. I think Colston Loveland's going to be good, but I don't think there should be any timeline on it. I don't think it's like if he's not the best tight end in the NFL by week 16, he's a bust. I think that's ridiculous.
I don't think that's what the conversation is, though. Do you think that he's going to have a disappointing season by like those rookie tight end standards?
Based on your projections.
Rookie tight ends are like 500-600 yards, 3 or 4 touchdowns.
I think that's exactly where he's going to be. 600 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns. So you
think he will achieve your projections regardless of the health issue and the being on the practice field?
Yes. I think it's not even. I don't think it has anything to do with the health issue. I think if anything, they just know that they don't have to rush him onto the field. They right now, unless Cole Kmet gets traded, you have that luxury. Cole Kmet knows how to be a starting tight end in the NFL. Even if you don't think he's great, it doesn't matter. He's still capable of filling that position. So why would you be like, hey, Colston, we know you only know about 20% of the playbook, but we're just going to stick you out there and see what you can do, man. Like, no, wait till he's comfortable with the entire playbook and then start playing him on every single down in the NFL. That's going to take what? 7, 8 weeks, 6, 7, 8 weeks. So you can't expect him to be
let me say this real quick.
100-yard game before week 5.
If the 20% of the playbook he knows to start the season is run your ass down the field and beat people on contested catches, yes, you run him out there and you let him do that shit. If he's healthy, you know what I'm saying? Because like he will make an impact there. He's gonna do things that Cole Kmet can't do, and it will bring a different dimension to your.
And then you got to ask yourself, how long does it take Caleb to trust him and make sure he knows he's in the right position?
See, I'm gonna go the other way, Dustin. I think this. I think a coach like Ben Johnson, and the reasons the Bears hired him are for things like these. I think when you have a gifted athlete and he's young, he might not necessarily be up to speed, even if he was healthy. Let's say he's still struggling to just learn this offense. You have guys like Brock Bowers, Malik Neighbors. There's many examples you can throw out there. Rookies who had physical talents, athletic abilities and traits you can't ignore, and a guy like Ben Johnson will find it. Like Xavier Worthy ran for a touchdown from the backfield his first game as an NFL player. A good coach can find a way to get athletic talents involved in their offense.
And you're making the point I was making, so you're not going the other way. What I'm saying is that they will use him for his skill sets, and he will make an impact.
And most importantly,
regardless of if he knows the whole playbook.
Ben Johnson schemes guys wide open. I mean, that is his greatest strength. To me, Amon-Ra is a good player. Laporte is a good player. But these guys were often, they create separation on their own, but they were often schemed into really advantageous situations. I think if Colston Loveland shows to the coaching staff, especially Ben Johnson, that he has the athletic traits to get the ball in his hands, to make plays after he's got it, you just want to get the ball in his hands.
Yes, and no matter how you can. This is what it boils down to me. How long did it take Laporta to get it? Ben Johnson got him involved in that offense immediately, and I think Colston Loveland can do the very same thing, and I believe he will.
It's not a direct comparison, though, because there really wasn't that much to throw to in Detroit when Sam Laporta got there outside. Jameson Williams was suspended, so you basically had Amon-Ra St. Brown. Sam Laporta automatically just slotted into that starting tight end role because they didn't. But you guys, and he was wrong about his rookie stats. He actually was better. He had 889 yards and 10 touchdowns his rookie season.
His rookie season was.
Here's the difference between Sam Laporta and Colston Loveland. Sam Laporta's rookie season in 2023, he had 120 targets. Colston Loveland's not going to get that.
For sure. That's a very good point because there's a lot more talent in the weapons department.
It's nothing against Colston Loveland. I'm not even saying it's Cole Kmet's going to have more targets than Colston Loveland, but the Lions didn't have DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, and Zacchaeus. That's not really a fair comparison.
But I think
it wouldn't disappoint me if Loveland doesn't have the same stats as Laporta did his rookie season. That's not a disappointing season.
But my point here is so you have two quality backs that the Chiefs like, and Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, who they just re-signed, right? A good coach like Andy Reid will see athletic ability in a guy like Brashard Smith, and he will have an impact as a rookie. You will get him involved however it is that you can.
Even if it's at a minimal level.
Because you just have to get the ball. Brock Bowers, guys, was carved out a role specifically before even knowing the bulk of this offense by the Oakland Raiders or Vegas Raiders, because you have to involve guys who have the ability to make plays. That's just what you do for them.
But again, you're not going the other way when saying that. That's what I'm saying as well.
Some teams have options and some teams don't. Like, who else were the Raiders throwing the ball to?
I don't know.
They had no receivers. They had no number one receiver. Jacoby Myers.
They didn't have an option. Brock Bowers was forced onto the field. But most rookies are.
I thought Devontae Adams was on that team in the start of last season.
They traded him pretty early on, but Devontae Adams was there, but he was not performing very well. But
Brock Bowers was much better at the end of the season than he was at the beginning, so you could see the impact that he had.
Which every rookie will be, Kyle. Every rookie will be better at the end of a season than the beginning. But in the beginning, You still have to get them involved in order to be the better
Speaking
player.
of getting them involved, let's get the chat involved real quick. Laz says 750 yards, 7 touchdowns for Colston Loveland.
That'd be a phenomenal rookie.
Erica says no, 800 yards and 10 touchdowns. She meant to say 800 yards. And then, as I said, Laz said, how long did it take Laporta to get it? We got his second year with more targets for Laporta. Problem in 2024 with Komet and Eberflus was fraudulent, didn't know how to use him properly. So Komet had a usage issue last year, just like a lot of players on this team. That was tough to almost said Fairline or something like that. Froline. All right, but here there was a lot of usage issues with multiple players on this team last year. But I think when you watch Cole Kmet play football, it is very clear what he's capable of doing and what he's not capable of doing. And the Bears have drafted a guy that can do the things that Cole Kmet is clearly not capable of doing. And that will have a big impact on this offense, the things that Colston Loveland can do that Kmet can't. So you do, Brandon, need to get him involved as early on as possible and as much as possible, because he does create mismatches and he does create the ability to make your offense very unpredictable, because you can line them up throughout the offense, and it's just going to put headaches on the defense, whereas you just can't do that with Cole Kmet. That will have an impact on this offense early on, I believe.
It comes down to how quick of a learner Colston Loveland is. Just because Colston Loveland hasn't learned the whole playbook by week 3 doesn't mean he's not going to be a good player in the NFL. He's a rookie learning,
and it doesn't mean that he won't
playbooks in the world. And by all accounts, Ben Johnson's offense is very, very difficult to grasp. I mean, it's a lot of moving parts. So Colston Loveland's going to have to know not only his assignment, he has to know everybody's assignment on the field.
That's my point, though, Kyle. It's
tough.
It is tough. And my point is,
he doesn't have to know it all.
The expectation is not to know it. It's to get him involved in easy fashion.
Know what you need to know to make an impact.
Just for the sake of this conversation, can I hear you
easy
guys?
Things.
Can I hear
Simple
your guys'
things.
Colston Loveland's projections?
Simple things. That's what I think he's going to be. He's going to be involved early in doing simple things.
Colston Loveland this season as a rookie. What do you think he's going to have?
I think he'll have like 600 to 700 yards max. I think the yards are not going to be as easy to come by for him, because, like you said, I think that's a high number, honestly, for Cole. If he had 500 yards, I'd be kind of happy with that, given the amount of talent that there are on this team in terms of the weapons on the outside. But I think he will lead this team in touchdowns. I think he'll have at least 9 touchdowns, Kyle. I think he's going to be the best red zone threat on this team. I've been saying that for a long time. I think Caleb Williams is going to find him in the red zone early and often, because he's going to realize that he creates mismatches for him there that nobody else does. So I think he leads this team in touchdowns with at least 9.
Dustin says 650 yards and 9 touchdowns. Burnett?
Oh, you're not going to like.
I'm going to say 550. 550.
I think
550.
I think Colston Loveland has a big year, but I project Cole Kmet to be moved early in this year. Not at the trade deadline. I think Cole Kmet's going to be traded. I think Colston Loveland's going to have to have a bigger impact on this team than we all hope he does, because I think he's going to be a tight end and tight end only. I think that you're going to probably see him on the field a lot more than you project right now. That's what I think. He could finish between 700 to 800 yards for sure. And not because he's not a talented tight end, where the best ones in the league get 1,000 plus. I think he's just got a lot of targets to share for sure. But I don't see Cole Kmet being on this team for too much longer. I really don't.
Since you brought that up, let's just ask this question, because Jonnu Smith was traded to the Steelers today in a deal that included Minka Fitzpatrick going to the Dolphins, and Jalen Ramsey went to the Steelers as well. So in that vein, the Dolphins are in the market for a tight end, Kyle. Now, here's the hypothetical question. I don't know if there's any validity. Just speculation. If the Dolphins were to say, hey, Cole Kmet would be perfect for our offense, call Ryan Poles and say, we'll give you a second-round pick for Cole Kmet right now, would you take it? Would you take it, Kyle? A second-round pick for Cole Kmet right now after just drafting Colston Loveland?
No, I'd wait till closer to the trade deadline to see where teams are starting to get desperate. It's just right now.
You guys think you're going to get more than a second-round pick for Cole Kmet?
You guys know where I stand already. I've said this all offseason. It's almost exactly what the Bears did to a T. Make this as comfortable for Caleb as you possibly can. If that means having one more pass catcher who right now, in terms of his 3-4 years in his career, has statistically the best hands of any player in the NFL, that's a guy I'd keep around to help Caleb Williams out. I mean, it's not to say that I think Colston Loveland's not going to be good and Cole Kmet should keep the starting job. I'm just right now. I mean, what if you go into the season and Colston Loveland gets hurt and you traded Cole Kmet? What if you go into the season DJ Moore gets hurt? You don't have Colston Loveland.
I mean, you could do that all day with any player.
Well, I mean, that's what you guys are doing. Brendan just said, I think he's going to be traded by week 6. So these are my projections for Colston Loveland. Like, it's impossible.
I'm
it's
not
impossible to
Brandon.
If you ask me to project what happens with the Bears the entire season at week by week and tell me what Colston Loveland does, I don't know. I have no idea. But as a Bears fan who is more concerned about quarterback than anything else, I don't really care about this season. As long as Colston Loveland looks like he's going to be good in the future, I don't need him to get 1,000 yards. I want everybody here. I want everybody healthy, and I want Caleb Williams to have as little excuses as he possibly can. I don't want people in the season to be like, well, you traded Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland got hurt, so you're using Jerem Smythe. So that's why Caleb Williams only had 3,800 yards. If you would have had one of those tight ends, he would have had 4,200. Like, I don't hear that shit.
So your answer is no. You would not accept a second-round pick on its face value right now from the Miami Dolphins for Cole Kmet, and that's because you put more value into the development of Caleb Williams, and you think Cole Kmet is important to that for the entire season. So you would hold on to Caleb Williams for the entire season to make sure that Caleb has that throughout this entire season.
Cole Kmet, I mean, like I said, if by week 6 or 7, right before the trade deadline, or if you think that Colston Loveland is capable of taking every single snap on the field, then I would.
The injury risk still exists.
What if that second turns into a 4th though at that point? And so now you missed out on 2 rounds of value that you could have got for a player. I would take a 3rd-round pick for Cole Kmet. Right?
I don't think they're going to get offered a 2nd-round pick for Cole Kmet.
It's a hypothetical. I don't think so either. I think a 3rd would be the best you could get for Cole.
I don't know, man. I'm also.
But I ask it that way.
And having conversations with Bears fans, Bears fans have this idea in their head that Caleb Williams is this amazing quarterback and he's going for 4,500 yards and 40 touchdowns. They have it in their head. They're like, oh, but they also have this kind of mentality sometimes where they're like, he's just good. He's going to be good no matter what. So he doesn't need like a ton of help. Like early on in the process, under Ben Johnson, learning a new scheme, playing under center on a team that was an absolute disaster last year, I beg to differ. I think he needs as much help as he can possibly get, make this transition as easy as he possibly can. So if that means passing on a 2nd-round pick, knowing Cole Kmet can help that transition, I'm passing on the 2nd-round pick. My concern is about Caleb Williams, and always will be. He is the most important player on the Bears to me. He always will be.
Relentless Mikey says 2nd for Cole, take it! ! Erica says no, Colston hasn't played a game yet. So I mean, kind of in the middle of what you got. Erica's on your side. Mikey says take it right off the bat. Brandon, where are you at on that? Would you take that if the Dolphins were to offer that?
In a heartbeat. Remember, Cole Kmet was one of the pieces that was supposed to make Caleb comfortable last year. He didn't have a very good year.
But these are coming from a lot of people said he was in a really good year, and I'm like, there's just not enough around him to have a good year. Like, don't get upset if Caleb Williams only has 3,500 yards and 20 touchdowns, and then he had it, and people were like, well, they didn't put a team around him. They made all these excuses for Caleb Williams. Well, then keep all the pieces you've put around him to make him comfortable. Keep them here until Caleb Williams is comfortable. Until Caleb is like, hey, I got this shit. I want to make everybody around me better now because I'm so comfortable in this offense and in the NFL playing at this speed. Now I got this shit.
Laz says take it before they change their minds, Brandon.
How do you think the Bears are assessing Cole Kmet's performance last year?
I mean, I don't really care how.
47 receptions, 474 yards, 4 touchdowns.
You do this
how
all
do you
the time.
think the Bears
you'll
feel
use Shane Waldron and Eberflus to your benefit in certain arguments. But then when I'm like respond to a question like this, and I'm like, well, he didn't have a great season, but we know he's better. We've seen it, and his coaches were Shane Waldron and Matt Eberflus, and then you're like, well, that doesn't matter. Now it doesn't matter. It matters when I'm talking about this, but it doesn't matter when you're talking about Cole Kmet. Like, I don't think Cole Kmet's ever had a good play caller. I don't think he's ever had anybody that's put him in a good position to succeed. Would you agree with that or disagree with that?
Well, I think because we saw, I mean, what did DJ Moore had 1,200 yards the year prior?
Yeah, right around an 8 touchdowns.
1,300 yards. What does that have to do with Cole Kmet?
And he came down to what? He came down to 1,000 last year.
I think Cole Kmet had 707 touchdowns that same season.
DJ Moore had 900.
Cole Kmet had 719, 6 touchdowns. He dropped to 470 with 4 touchdowns.
The number 9th ranked tight end in the NFL.
He lost 30 targets or 30 receptions. Listen, man,
He was not featured in the offense, and they went with, and Erica pointed it out, they went with Gerald Everett to start that season, as we were saying they were going to do. You could see
for
that
a week. For 1
Yeah, it didn't work out too well.
It did not. It did not.
It didn't last very long.
Cole Kmet never really got integrated into the offense. When I have this conversation, guys, I am never saying that Cole Kmet is not a good player. He's not a great player. He's not a player that changes the game for you. He's a I'm not saying you're. I'm talking for myself. He's a consistent, reliable player that will get you from point A to point B.
Reliable.
But he's replacement level.
That's important to Caleb Williams.
Oh, for sure. But he's replacement level. And if I can get a second round pick for Cole Kmet because of another team's need, then I am going to jump on that in a second, because he's not long for this team, Kyle. The writing is on the wall.
You just don't know if Colston Loveland could be the replacement that replaces the replacement player.
I'll take my chances. I'll take my chances with that.
And once again, the more Bears fans take chances, the more Caleb Williams is going to suffer. Like, I've heard people say that we should trade DJ Moore.
You get your starting running back with that second round pick, Kyle? Is that suffering?
I've heard.
Answer that question, please.
I think yes. It's for this season for Caleb Williams. Yes, it is.
No.
What do you mean?
You're
losing a
listen,
target for Caleb
listen,
Williams.
I think
sense in any way, shape, or form, Dustin.
Listen,
if you're
Kyle,
taking a guy
let
away
me
from Caleb
explain.
Williams,
Let me explain.
catch passes from
Let
Caleb
me
Williams.
explain.
He caught what? The most touchdowns of the Bears last year, or second?
He caught 4.
Not the most. He caught
4.
Got Caleb Williams negatively. Anyway, shape. No logic behind that. It's not logical.
No, there is,
That's not
because
logical.
if you're thinking about
Not.
okay, Kyle, can you let me respond?
You asked
You're
me a
asking
question.
me a question.
You asked
too.
me a question.
Okay,
You're talking once again. You keep saying future.
All right, let's
worry about
move
Caleb
on
Williams
from Cole
this
Kmet.
year, not next year. Worry about the development of Caleb Williams and a new offense.
It's Cole
year.
Kmet,
The new offense is being instilled
Montez
this
Sweat.
year.
It's these guys that are like your pen pals that you get super upset about when they talk about it.
Dustin, you've heard
this is
100
a
people
business.
now.
Cole Kmet will not be on this team in the
Dustin,
future.
we've heard
So
100
you can
people
get
now
an
say
asset for him.
Okay,
before
the same could
he
be said
walks
for
away
DJ
for
Moore. Are you
nothing,
trading DJ
then
Moore?
that's what you
Are
do.
you trading DJ Moore?
Think like
the
a
same things have been said
businessman.
about
If
DJ
I'm
Moore.
Ryan
Dustin.
Poles, that's how
Answer
I'm
the question. Are you trading DJ Moore?
The
Are you
loving
trading DJ
buddy
Moore?
feelings you have.
If somebody
for Cole
calls you
Kmet.
tomorrow and says, I'll give you a first round pick for
get the
DJ
fuck
Moore,
outta
are you
here.
trading DJ Moore?
I think.
Are you trading DJ Moore? Now you won't even answer the question. No, of course he's not.
I didn't hear
This
your
would hurt
question.
the development of
I didn't
Caleb
hear your
Williams.
Guys,
Are you trading DJ
hold on.
Moore?
Let's
Are you
move
trading
on.
Moore?
What did
If
you
somebody
ask?
somebody
what
calls
did
right
you
now
ask?
and says, I'm giving you the 10th pick of the draft for DJ Moore. Are you trading DJ
Fuck
Moore?
yes, I'm doing that.
Is that
right
is that
now.
hurting
Yes.
the development of Caleb Williams?
Yeah, no, you have
Yes,
Rome Odunze and
it
Luther
is.
Burden.
Oh
No,
my
you
God.
have multiple.
I think.
years to get
Listen,
this
I
thing
think.
going,
I
bro.
think. I think
All
that.
right. happening
Pro
this
Bowl
year.
caliber receiver leaving the team
Build your
doesn't hurt the
team.
development of the quarterback. That
guy
is
who-
absolutely asinine.
The older receiver on this team that you can get a number 10
But
pick
oh, he's
for and get a
27,
younger
bro.
receiver? I said the older, Kyle. The
Listen,
older.
Guys,
Listen,
I'm
I think
talking about
that-
this year, Dustin. I'm not talking about the future. I'm talking about the development
This
of Caleb Williams,
year
a new
is not.
system.
This year is not a playoff season.
But
He
it's
can
important to
still
the
develop.
development of Caleb
Guys,
Williams.
hey,
He can
listen,
still
I think-
develop under Ben Johnson if he doesn't have Cole Kmet. He doesn't
Yes,
need Cole Kmet
I
to
think-
develop.
I
Cole
think.
Kmet
doesn't
and
need
DJ
Cole
Moore
Kmet to
both
develop.
help the development of
I project
Caleb Williams
Caleb
in a
to
new
have.
system this year. This is a new system, guys. He's basically a rookie.
I project
It's a
Caleb
new
Williams.
system.
I project Caleb Williams to have a good season. Now I'm going to be
Yes,
honest.
I expect Cole
Kyle,
Kmet and DJ Moore to be a big part of that. Okay.
I expect
We all
I
agree.
expect
Let's
Caleb
move
Williams
on.
to have a big season. If the Bears trade Cole Kmet today,
It does-
I expect Caleb Williams
him
to have a
in no
good
way.
season.
Hurts him in
If
no
the
way.
Bears
I-
trade
fucking
DJ
fine.
Moore today, does that affect his season?
I expect him to have a good season with or without Cole Kmet.
If they
If
trade
Cole
DJ
Kmet-
Moore today, does that affect his season?
No, but listen, if Cole Kmet tore his knee today, Kyle, is Caleb Williams done
Does
for the
that
year?
just
It's
Kill
over.
Caleb's development.
It's
You guys
over.
just- Yeah. What do you?
Your argument you're making is that if the less pass catchers Caleb Williams has going into a brand new scheme, and a
He's
brand
still
new
going to
offense,
have a good
does
year.
not affect his development in any way, shape, or form. That is asinine.
No, but I expect Caleb to be a
Hey, we're taking
multiplier.
a second round pick for Cole Kmet, and we're taking a first round pick for DJ Moore. You now have Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, and Rome Odunze. You think his stats
I
are
still
affected by
like
that?
it. I
That is
still like it.
Pretty good
absolutely
about that.
insane.
And I feel really good about a number 10
That's
over. You
insane.
said the number 10 pick for
That's
DJ
insane.
Moore. You think you're going to get
That's
that for
insane.
him? You're not going to get that
I
for him.
told you, it's not about the value. It's about the development of your franchise quarterback.
Oh, it's about
That's what
the
it's about.
Kyle, do you believe
You guys
development of your
disagreed with me in the
franchise
offseason
too,
when I said they should spend more assets on the offensive line than the defensive line. You guys disagreed. What did they do? They spent more assets on the offensive line than they did the defensive line.
But do you believe
this year
Kyle,
for the Bears, you know what Ben Johnson believes? He believes this year is about the development of Caleb Williams, the growth and development of Caleb Williams.
And if you can add assets to your team in the future, that when Caleb will be ready, and
don't do it right now when Caleb Williams still has never played a snap in this offense ever once in his life, and he's going to play more under center this season than he has for his entire life.
Let me ask you. I'm in a question, Kyle. At a moderate value, if do you believe that Caleb Williams is a multiplier? Do you think he's going to be that guy in his future? Like, do you think he's the guy who's going to make players?
You got to make people better around him, correct? Like, that's what you need from your franchise quarterback.
Something about what happened to Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill was there the first year.
Patrick Mahomes still won Super Bowl
while he was learning the offense, and then after they're like, oh, you know what? Patrick Mahomes looks very comfortable in the NFL. Looks like he can make people around him better. What did they do? They traded Tyreek Hill after. They probably got trade offers, you guys, the year that Patrick Mahomes was on the team with Tyreek Hill. They probably got trade offers for Tyreek Hill. You know what they said? No, I'm sure they did, because everybody in the NFL wanted Tyreek Hill because he was the best receiver in the NFL at the time.
Well, the Chiefs weren't trying to trade him at that time.
Well, they were trying to trade him before the contract expired. So it could have been the year before, the year after. It didn't matter. They just wanted to
did not want to pay him.
The contract expired. Because they didn't want to pay him. But they were like, hey, instead of getting assets from this year, let's keep Tyreek Hill to help the development of Patrick Mahomes, make sure he's got a good quality weapon to throw to. And then next year, when he's a little more comfortable and start to make the tide that lifts all boats, as Dustin says, then we could talk about getting rid of Tyreek Hill, and he'll make guys who are as good as Tyreek Hill look closer to Tyreek Hill. That's what they did.
Listen,
that's what the Bears are doing.
If the Bears are offered a second-round pick for Cole Kmet, you run with
Durham
Smythe. You run with Colston Loveland. You run with Joe Wilson. You run with whoever you have to run with for the year.
Than the average Bears fan, and obviously more than you guys. I am more concerned about how long it takes Caleb Williams to learn, grasp this offense.
Give him the perfect situation.
You can try. You can certainly try.
And part of that is building assets.
You know what would be a really good? You know what would be a really good?
Cole Kmet is not a part of this.
What would be a really good effort in trying to make things as comfortable for Caleb Williams as possible is having two good tight ends and a team that plays the most two tight end sets in the NFL.
Of course, but you're not going to pay your backup tight end $10 million.
You can this year. Don't worry about it. Next year,
but if you don't have to, this subject always turns into yelling. Listen. I think Cole Kmet had 47 receptions last year. I think that number comes. I think that number naturally comes down because of the additions they made.
The amount of miles they have to feed, as you said.
And I think if you let's call Cole Kmet's receptions this year 38 for 412 yards. If you lose that, I think Caleb still develops into a pro quarterback. But I do think we should talk.
Let's hold on real quick. Let's jump into the chat.
And everything goes perfectly. Nobody gets hurt. Caleb Williams' development is perfect. But if you start trading away pieces and the guys start getting hurt, and you got to talk about Tyler Scott, Zacchaeus, and Durham Smythe, yes, his development is going to be hurt. Yes,
but his development will still be happening. His development will still be, and you're painting the worst case scenario possible. You have Rome Odunze and Luther
Why would you want it to do it the quickest as possible?
Tyler Scott.
Williams' development is done once they're like, this guy knows how to play in the NFL.
Your development is never done.
Super Bowl go up, whether you have the first round pick, second round pick, fourth round. It doesn't matter.
Development is never done.
You know what I'm talking about, Dustin. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Patrick Mahomes winning an MVP. It's his first season in the NFL because he had good players around him, good coaches around him, and a good offensive line.
And the Bears have improved that offensive line.
Who was CJ Stroud?
Having a solid O-line is actually more important for Caleb's development.
Who was CJ Stroud's tight end this rookie year?
Backwards, Brandon. His development has gone backwards. Maybe if they gave him more help,
maybe if he had more receivers,
it would have gone forward. The second he lost Nico Collins and Tank Dell, his development started to fall apart.
Nico Collins,
the season started to fall apart.
Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon. Who's the tight end? Owen Daniel. Who's the tight end? Who's the tight end that they
have? I don't know.
Jordan. And the second that they lost,
they put enough weapons around.
They looked like a much shittier team.
You know what the problem with Houston was?
They lost DJ Moore.
You know what the problem with Houston was? Their offensive line was trash. That was the problem with Houston.
These weapons.
The Bears have improved their offensive line a hell of a lot this season.
Okay, listen.
How is that even an argument?
The question proposed was, would you trade the second round pick for Cole Kmet? Dustin, you say yes. I said yes.
I said right now, no.
And multiple people in the chat
That's
went
fine.
both ways.
We'll move on. Yeah.
Erica says, I agree with Kyle on this one. Fair enough. Relentless Mikey says, we cannot coddle this kid. He's got to learn to deal with adversity.
He already did.
Says, yeah, and he's learning for sure.
And it didn't look good, guys. The adversity made it not look good. 20 touchdowns, 3,500 yards is not a good season. I mean, if you compare him to Jaden Daniels, you guys, let's compare the stats between him and Bo Nix. Let's look over the weapons for Bo Nix. Okay, let's go over the weapons for Bo Nix.
Bo Nix
threw 3,800 yards. Bo Nix threw 3,800 yards last year. 3,800 yards last year.
Why a tight end?
Why was his development so much better than Caleb?
Yeah, who's their tight end, Kyle?
Why was his development so much better than Caleb Williams?
Because he had Sean Payton.
Coaches, yeah.
He had Sean Payton, and he had an offensive line.
Coaches.
Yeah.
Who develops players?
Cortland Sutton, one of the best receivers in the AFC last year. Cortland Sutton, over 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. So you guys are just like, hey, let's
dive into that, though.
Let's DJ Moore. And Luther Burden's going to be a 1,200 yard Sean Payton touchdown guy.
But forget Cole Kmet. Who develops players?
The coaches. So if you got Sean Payton,
the talent around them.
If you got Sean Payton as your head coach or Andy Reid as your head coach, you're in a much better place than if you have Matt Eberflus.
Well, you don't know anything about Ben Johnson.
Your head coach.
You don't know anything about Ben. You have no idea how Ben Johnson's going to be as a coach. You eliminate as many risks as you possibly can.
Earlier this show,
eliminate as many risks as you possibly can. You got a second-year quarterback learning a brand new offense and a rookie head coach. Then give him as many weapons as you possibly can to eliminate excuses. This is what I've been saying the entire offseason. I think you guys wanted them to draft defensive player in the first round, and then they drafted Colston Loveland, and all of a sudden you guys are absolutely in love with it. It's like pick a lane and stick in it. I was the guy in the offseason who's like, if Caleb Williams' development is going to be better in the next season, they need an offensive line, they need 2 more weapons, they add all that shit to the shit you already got here.
They had DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze,
and no offensive line. Let's see all of it together.
So give me the offensive line and trade Cole Kmet.
So give me the offensive line and then start giving away pieces on the outside. That's dumb.
But what really, Kyle, and looking back at that, though, you said we wanted a defensive player, which I did, and the Bears took offense. They went offense. But I will say this. Why did the Bears fan base went from wanting Tyler Warren to grotesquely despising the pick of Colston Loveland, and it just doesn't make sense to me.
Brandon, of course, I just wouldn't like the Colston Loveland pick. That makes sense. Like if they're like,
they took a different player at the same position.
Identified who he thought was the best tight end in the draft and drafted him, and the guy that everyone wanted.
You guys Vernon just talked about fans talking about they wanted Tyler Warden and they drafted Colston Loveland. Those fans, if they like Tyler Warden, why would they like the Colston Loveland pick?
Because they love Ben Johnson.
Because they wanted a tight end.
Do you know those fans?
They wanted a tight end. They got a tight end.
All these Tyler Warren fans are all absolutely sold on Ben Johnson as well. You guys, it's getting very hypothetical here.
Kyle,
what it boils down to, draft, of course he's upset when they don't draft the player that they like in the draft.
What it boils down to for me was the biggest issue Caleb Williams had last year was no coaching, no play calling, and no offensive line. He had weapons. This year, he has much better coaching. Yes, he has a much better offensive line, and he still has a litany of weapons. Yes, and if you were to get a second round pick, that's a no brainer for Colston.
You just said you traded away DJ Moore. You just said you first for a DJ Moore
pick.
Okay, does that impact Caleb Williams' development?
Potentially, but not to the extent that you're saying. Much more so, the offensive line and the play calling impacts Caleb Williams, and the run game not being established.
You even say if DJ Moore impacts his development that much, okay, but I want DJ Moore.
If I'm weighing out the detriment of DJ Moore not being on this team versus having a top 10 draft pick, it's not even close.
You're talking about getting rid of
when
your new tight end has not even taken a snap in practice yet.
I don't care. He's going to be really fucking good.
Or he re-injures his shoulder.
Everybody in the chat. Everybody in the chat.
Don't have a tight end.
Yes, everybody in the chat. We want to hear from you guys. Do you think that Colston Loveland will disappoint this year as one of the most disappointing? As he was labeled one of the most disappointing first round picks in the NFL. Do you think Colston Loveland? Do you think Colston Loveland will be one of the more disappointing first round picks in the NFL from the 2025 draft, guys? We want to hear what you think. And like I said, my biggest surprise is I think that Colston Loveland is. Listen, I think Colston Loveland has. I don't know this. I think that he has the potential to be that George Kittle type player. I think he has the potential to be that Travis Kelce type player. And I think if he is, I think Ben Johnson sees this as well. You don't spend the 10th overall pick on a guy you don't think has that ceiling. But I think if he
and
is,
you don't spend that pick,
I
Brandon,
think
you're comfortable with the guy you already have at that position.
But more importantly, I want to focus on Colston Loveland. I think if he is,
guys. Sometimes
I think
it
if he,
doesn't happen. Kyle Pitts is not a top 10 tight end in the NFL.
I want to focus. Kyle Pitts had a 1,000-yard rookie season. So here, this is what I want to get back to.
Why does Kyle Pitts keep getting brought up? Jesus just came in with a super chat, bro.
Thank you, Purple Jesus.
Purple Jesus, you're the man. Thanks for being here. This is a Vikings fan right here.
Thank you, Purple Jesus. We appreciate that, man. Much love. We appreciate you. We appreciate your loyalty and always coming back, man. But I think if Colston Loveland's ceiling is that. Yeah. Super chat, clap. But he says there's only one way to find out if he's disappointing pick, and that doesn't happen in June, my friends. He's correct about that. For
I agree with you.
And I think, but I think this. I think if, because so I'm putting this on if Colston Loveland is the player that Ben Johnson believes that he could be, which not that I believe he could be, that his head coach believes he could be. Then I think it starts this year.
And that makes Cole Kmet expendable this year. Yes.
No, I'm not talking about. I'm not focused on Cole Kmet. In regards to,
I am
to the article about Colston Loveland being a disappointment.
I'd like to see him take a.
I think you see it this year.
Of course, 100%. But you got to project it out. That's why you drafted the guy. You drafted him on his projection of what he could become. That's what Ben Johnson was.
I think you would see the impact.
Sometimes that doesn't work out. Sometimes players aren't who you think they are when you drafted them. We've seen it on the Bears plenty of time. Kevin White was drafted to be a number one receiver for the Bears for 10 years, and he was a major disappointment. You guys, I'm not saying that it's a guarantee Colston Loveland's a bust. I'm just saying before you are like, hey, Colston Loveland's obviously Travis Kelce. Let's start getting rid of the rest of our tight ends. I'd like to see him take some plays.
I didn't say anything about.
Is that a lot to ask?
You just want to talk about Cole Kmet, man. Fuck Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet can go suck it, dude.
The chat is talking about Cole Kmet.
Yeah, that's what the conversation is. That's what it has been.
Listen, so hold on. What I didn't get to do this last week, and I'm going to now because this conversation. I want to. So the best season that Cole Kmet ever had was 719 yards. Outside of that, does anybody know?
Right?
Does anybody?
Sounds right.
Does anybody know 6? Does anybody know? Does anybody know the most stats Cole Kmet ever had outside of that season?
The most
was it like? Wasn't it last year?
The best season he had outside of that season.
Wasn't it last year? The 400 and some yards, or was it the year before? It was like a 500.
This is what I don't understand. So when you have this is
the best season he had was 600.
So the best season how is everybody else on the team given a pass except for Cole Kmet?
The best season he had
that's the question I'm asking.
The best season he had besides 719 yards was 612.
Like so, if I asked you guys,
hold on, Kyle. I'm getting to a point here. I'm addressing the chat. I just want to say this Melon Smasher came in. You guys did this last week. I just want to say, guys.
He also says 8 touchdowns.
Besides the 1,000-yard season that Kyle Pitts had as a rookie, he had 2 seasons with almost 700 yards. He's had 3 seasons that pretty much
pick in the draft, bro. He was a top 5 pick, Brandon.
Dude,
I don't know why we're talking about Kyle Pitts.
He pretty much had. He's had 3 seasons that were, if not better, equivalent to the best thing Cole Kmet's ever done in his career. So if you think Kyle Pitts is dog water, Cole Kmet doesn't really match. He doesn't add up. It just if you think Cole Kmet's a good player,
it is not that black. So much more shit goes into that. The coaching, the play calling, the offensive line, the quarterback play.
The coaching of the Falcons.
So much more goes
into the Falcons coaching over the last 4 years.
Who's better, Brandon? Tell me who's better: Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, or Justin Fields?
I'll tell you who's better. I think Kyle Pitts this year is a better player than Cole Kmet.
I mean, this conversation could go on for 30 years if you want to get into the nitty gritty of it. All I said is sometimes first round picks bust, and there is still a chance. Colston Loveland could be one of those first round.
You want the insurance policy here in case that happens.
Yes,
100%. Did not have
or if his shoulder injury re-aggravates and they're like, you know what, he's going to be fine, but the recovery process is a lot longer than we thought it was going to be. Keep Cole Kmet here until you have all of those boxes checked off the list, all of them, every single goddamn one of them.
It just doesn't work that way, man.
I mean,
it doesn't work that way.
You have the luxury to do it. You're no rush to rush.
But you don't have the luxury. But but if you get an offer like that,
no, but Dustin, a hypothetical second round pick that's never going to happen is not.
Okay, So I'll say this: if they offered a third, if someone offered a third for Cole Kmet right now, I would take it because I don't think I'm ever going to get anything better than that. And I would rather have those future assets to pair with Caleb Williams and Colston Loveland while Ben Johnson is still developing his quarterback and still building this team up because it ain't happening this year.
Cole Kmet's traded tomorrow, and you can disagree all you want, but in my opinion, if Cole Kmet's traded tomorrow and Colston Loveland's a bust or his shoulder injury gets re-aggravated and they can't play for the first 8 weeks, and they're throwing to Jerem Smythe, I think that hurts the development of.
You brought up Bo Nix. Who was Bo Nix? Who was Bo Nix throwing to at tight end last year? Who was Bo Nix's tight end last year?
It's not the same, dude. Ben Johnson runs the most 2 tight end sets in the NFL.
For sure, yes.
But so it's a totally different offense.
Loveland and Durham Smythe. Durham Smythe is your inline blocking.
Best offensive line football. That helps rookie quarterbacks.
In regards to the value,
tremendously.
I can guarantee you
that offensive line improvement this year.
If you wait,
I'm not disagreeing.
If
with
you
the
wait,
offensive line has to be good for his development.
If you wait to trade Cole Kmet till after this season is over, you won't get more than a 5th round pick.
I think you guys are delusions of grandeur to think you're getting a 2nd or 3rd round pick for him right now.
So
why do you think that?
Because first of all, tight end's not as important a position in the NFL as some other positions like
wide
receivers, star quarterbacks, star tackles. It's just not, the value's not there. They know they can get a tight end in the draft.
How much would you?
That's part of the reason why you're not going to get offered a 2nd or 3rd round pick.
How much would you get for George?
2nd or 3rd round pick tight end.
How much would you get for George Kittle?
So you're
not getting a 1st or 2nd round pick for George Kittle, Brandon.
We got a couple questions in the chat, guys. Let's move here.
I think a second.
Justin, what's the offer for George Kittle?
George Kittle at least 2 seconds. If you got 2 seconds for TJ Hawkinson, you better get at least 2 for George Kittle because he's a better player than TJ Hawkinson.
I mean, he's been hurt for the last 5 seasons in a row, man.
So is TJ Hawkinson. TJ Hawkinson has dealt with injuries as well, man. Listen, all I'm saying is that's what I would want for a George Kittle if I was getting rid of him. We got some questions from the chat. Colston Loveland, we'll see how his season goes. Hopefully he's here for training camp and he's ready to go and he's able to develop and get into this offense quick, early, and often, right? That's what we want because I think he's going to have a damn good season personally. I think he will lead the Bears in touchdowns, but we'll see how it goes. Broski has a question for the panel. So are the Bears – okay, let's just take it off of there. Are the Bears more committed long-term to Ben Johnson or Caleb Williams? Who's touching the chat, damn it?
You guys want – it's Caleb Williams. Your quarterback is more important than that coach. Quarterback's the most important thing in American sports right now.
I think their hope, Kyle, is that you're committed to both of them for this.
Yeah, I would hope so. Or you shouldn't have hired Ben Johnson.
I think that's their hope. But if I don't think you want to pick one. I think that their hope is that we've created this marriage between these two, and they will grow and prosper together and get us back.
The answer is Caleb. The answer is Caleb Williams. The reason you hired Ben Johnson is
because of Caleb Williams. Yeah, for sure. But again, you look around the league, Brandon. The best guys that have this combination, the coach and the quarterback, those are the ones that are consistently competitive.
Right, but then you look at the teams that had Hall of Fame quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers and the guys who won Super Bowls with them get fired, like Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, but they're there for 12 years.
The coach is expendable. The
they're
quarterback
there for 12 years.
If you find your quarterback, he's not expendable.
For sure. I agree with that 100%. And the Bears, if it did come down to that, but again, the ultimate hope is that this is a 10-year marriage that produces very good results for the Chicago Bears.
If this is a decade-long marriage, something's going really well.
Jed says,
you're consistently
best case scenario. I mean, that's why I hired Ben Johnson, right?
To get the best case scenario.
Hey, let's let him develop Caleb and go get a new coach. I think they wanted multiple championships from both these guys on the team at the same time. I think that's
we got a few more things to get to. I want to hit the chat, guys. Jed says, dang, didn't expect to hop on here and see Melon Smasher making sense. Jed always coming in from the top rope. Kyle Harris says, who's the Bears' current number 3 tight end? That's Durham Smythe.
Durham Smythe, who was on the Dolphins last season.
Broski says Kmet was a 2nd round pick. No chance you get a 2nd round pick for him. That's why I made the hypothetical of that because it makes it harder to answer. If it was a 4th round pick, I might just keep Cole Kmet. Honestly, a 3rd.
I would even make a case that Colston Loveland would get you more in a trade today than Cole Kmet will, and he hasn't played a snap of football.
Laz says don't count out Steven Carlson as tight end too. Broski says
I'm counting out Carlton as a tight end too.
Harris says Tucker Kraft is better than both. That's a bold statement, bold strategy. I like Tucker Kraft though, I do. But
Tucker Kraft's a very good tight end.
I like Luke. I like Musgrave kind of better though when if he ever puts it all together. But who knows with them? Not bad to have depth. Erica answered answered the question from Broski, she would say Caleb. Perfect example, Viz Ojo says, is the Chargers with Herbert. He's in his third head coach. You don't want that, right? You want Caleb to continue to grow with the same coach. We've seen this with Jay Cutler. We saw this with Justin Fields, and going through different offensive coordinators and different coaching staffs. You want consistency and stability for Caleb, for what Kyle has been talking about this whole time. What Kyle is the most focused on, the development of Caleb Williams. And so hopefully that is a marriage between Ben Johnson and him for a long time.
Another thing to answer that question, guys, is it's going to be quarterback by default every time because there's a lot more money invested in the franchise quarterback than there is in the head coach. I mean, it's just like once they spend that money on the quarterback, if you're not talking about a rookie contract, if you're talking about like Caleb Williams is in his fifth year, he just got paid $500 million. That's where the most of their money is invested. They're going to do whatever they can to make sure Caleb is here forever, and anybody else won't really matter to them. They'll move them in and out like chess pieces. But Dustin's right. The more you change the offensive coordinator or the head coach, and he has to learn a new system,
the more you stunt that development.
You're not going to see consistent seasons from him. Like Jay Cutler could have been a really good quarterback if he had one coach and one offense coordinator his entire career. We never got to see it. We never know what. Jay
and the coach is
ever.
far more often accountable for failing the quarterback than the quarterback is.
Yeah, and Jay Cutler is not as smart as Caleb. Was not as smart as Caleb Williams is either.
I'm not saying I don't think I think Caleb Williams is better than Jay Cutler, but I think Jay Cutler. I mean, we saw Jay Cutler throw 4,000 yards in Denver, and then he came here and never did it again.
That clearly hurt his development. It hurt Alex Smith's development in San Francisco when they drafted him, and they were constantly siphoning. You see it time and time again. You want one offensive coordinator, and that's why you hire that guy as the head coach. That was the reason everybody wanted Ben Johnson, is because this guy never gets hired to go somewhere else, and your offense 100%. Changes. He is 100%. Here with you. So, I mean, guys, let's get into this Matt Miller mock draft 2026. I wanted to talk about this a little briefly. I think it'll be good for the chat too. Matt Miller came out with his 2026 way too early mock draft, and all I really cared about, and I scrolled right to, was the Chicago Bears and where they were, because they use a simulator that simulates thousands and thousands of scenarios to play out the season and get that draft order. So I was curious where the draft order was for the Bears to see how this simulator thinks their season's going to go. And their draft order was 17th, guys. The Bears were at 17th picking in the 2026 draft. And then I was curious who the pick was, because
real quick, man, Mel Smasher makes a good point here to kind of put the stamp on the quarterback being more important than the head coach. I don't know if that's what he's doing, but if he isn't, he's doing it incidentally. I mean, Brady had Belichick, defensive head coach.
I've made this point many times. Yes,
Lamar has defensive head coach. Stroud has defensive head coach. The quarterback is more important than the head coach.
Here, let me make this point real quick, Al. Let me make this real quick. Whether it's Belichick or it's Harbaugh, whoever it is, defensive guy, offensive guy, I don't care. There's consistency. There's stability. There's principles in place. There's a way that we win football games, and that coach hires offensive coordinators that play to that scheme. That does not change. We still go about our business the same way. Maybe it's not just about the playbook.
Maybe not D'Amico Ryan, but you're talking about guys like McDermott. You're talking about Belichick. You're talking about Harbaugh. Those guys had a lot more to do with the offense than you think.
After years of Belichick started diving into it.
After years in the NFL, they're like, I can do both these things.
If I can develop a defense that'll stop an offense, then I can tell how to exploit a defense from the offense. The best head coaches definitely touch on both sides, on all three sides of the ball, right? And those guys.
Andy Reid still deals with the defense occasionally. I mean, the best head coaches are just really good football guys. It's not about like, I'm a quarterback whisperer. I know how to coach linebackers. They know how to coach everybody all the time and know who they should find in the draft.
To me, it's about the consistency and the leadership. It's about the consistency and how the team goes about their business, and it's about the consistency and what these are the principles that we have in place that will win us football.
Culture.
And those head coaches have those things in spades, whether they're on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball. It's just an added benefit with a Sean McVay type of guy, where the guy who runs your offense, which is scoring all your points, is not going anywhere.
The culture never changes. The culture is consistent.
Correct. I agree with Dustin. Like, what's more, just as right after you talk about the guy who could be a good leader of men or a good leader for the team,
James Christo.
Right after that, to me, the most important thing when you have a really young quarterback is having a coach who's going to be the offensive coordinator no matter what, and he'll never lose his offensive coordinator. That to me is like, that's why the Bears keeping Matt Eberflus was really dumb last year. It was really dumb for them to do that. They should not have kept Matt Eberflus when they drafted.
Guys, can we get into what I was trying to lead us into, please? Let's move into that. The Bears were picking 17th in this 2026 mock draft by Matt Miller, and I like Matt Miller. I always have since he was at Bleacher Report. Now he's at ESPN. But he had the Bears taking Jeremiyah Love at 17 in the draft. So I just want to discuss quickly, like touch on it, man. What do we think of where the Bears are picking there? Because that puts them just outside the playoffs. I mean, that's a decent season, 17th. That's about where the Bengals picked this year, right?
The Bengals picked 17th.
Yep.
They were 9-8. They were half game out of the playoffs.
Exactly
Where I
they were competitive. Yep, right, exactly. And getting your pass catching, bulldozing, big play making, can be on the field for every single down guy that we have pictured right here on this thumbnail, Julian Love. How do we feel about that? Because
he's not going to be there.
I was ecstatic to see that. I fucking hope he is.
I'm with Brandon. I mean, that would be an awesome pick. That would probably be my favorite pick in the draft. But obviously, you guys, is way too. I haven't looked at any names at all. I mean, but just watching Jeremiyah Love and what he's capable of doing, and thinking about him in a Ben Johnson offense, that I would be absolutely ecstatic. I mean, that would be my favorite, best case scenario. But I looked at Draft Buzz today when we start put the show together, and they have him going like 11th. That's quite the difference.
And he's about to have a very good season. He could crawl up the board even from that, to be honest. Jeremiyah Love is one of those players. He's a Jahmyr Gibbs-like player, a Ashton Jeanty-like player. He's going to make an impact on your football team. He's an every down back. He'll impact in the passing game, the run game. He's leaping. I mean, dude, I looked up for this thumbnail. I looked up Jeremiyah Love leaping over defender. There was like 40 of them. I had to pick from like 40 pictures because this guy's just an athletic freak. He's a monster. He's on a team that relies heavily on running the football.
I called him Julian Love. My bad.
All good. Oh yeah, there's a lot of J Loves out there, man.
The only thing that stinks about this running back class is I think speed is really important to Ben Johnson, and there is no Jahmyr Gibbs in this run. Actually, there might be never. Jahmyr Gibbs is one of a kind.
Love has that speed, man. Love broke a 98-yard
high top
run.
end speed. Yeah.
I think his 40 was a 4.4. I think Jahmyr Gibbs was a 4.36. I think is what he had ran.
It's very similar. And they're both similar in that they have the big playability and they can pound it between the top.
Listen, I like Love. I just don't. I mean, if Bears fans need to not expect their running back to be Jahmyr Gibbs. Don't expect whoever we draft to be Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is the top 3 running back in the NFL and a generational type talent. That just doesn't come out every year. But yeah, if you're talking about getting as close to that as you can, a guy who can do anything and do everything really, really well, like maybe best all time, like in that conversation, I think Love is the closest thing you got in this draft. If you look at all
and
the
if the Bears have a chance at him, then that would be amazing.
If I were the Bears, I'd trade up.
Man, to get your guy, because we could go through the season, everything we talked about, Cole Kmet, Colston Loveland, DJ Moore, Rome, we could go through the season and find that the one thing that we're still missing, because regardless, I think DeAndre Swift is going to have a great season, guys. I really do. I love DeAndre Swift, and I think this running game is going to be better than people expect. But you still need that. What the point I made on the bare minimum a couple weeks ago, when you have the guy that can do everything, your offense is much less predictable. When you have the running back by committee, DeAndre Swift's out here for a purpose. Manungai or Roshan Johnson, they're out here for a purpose. So the defense knows what you're going to do. I mean, you can use that to your advantage, but at the end of the day, you become more predictable. We might go into the next offseason seeing that the one thing that the Bears still need is that guy that can do it all and be in the backfield for the majority of the time.
What you just said is unfortunately, no disrespect, but I think that's why they traded DeAndre Swift. I think Dave Montgomery can catch the ball and run the ball, and Jahmyr Gibbs can catch the ball and run the ball, so you never know what they're going to do. And I think about the best running back tandem in the NFL. I think Love is 100% a guy who could basically do anything in the football field. But I mean, if you guys look at PFF rankings for the Chicago Bears for running back rooms, I mean, they got him 30th. That's certainly, to me right now, if you look at
I don't put much stock in what PFF says, Kyle, honestly.
Well, I mean, there's not many articles talking about the Bears running back room. I mean, if you
for sure there's not. I think they will be better than what people are saying, though.
And I think that
they have to be.
If a player
Johnson needs it to be.
If a player like Jeremiyah Love is available wherever it is the Bears are picking, after their publicized pursuit of a running back in this former draft, there's no doubt in my mind that Matt Miller's correct about the position.
Yeah, you still haven't addressed that. Yeah.
I think the Bears are going to go after a running back in this draft, and I think if Jeremiyah Love's available, it kind of leaves them no option. And the worst part about the best part about a failed season, guys, if this does fall apart with Caleb learning a new offense and Ben Johnson being a rookie head coach and the left tackle being
a high draft pick.
You're going to have a chance at a guy like this. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. So,
but the best of both worlds, Brandon. That's why I like this article, because it wasn't just about who they picked; it was where they picked.
He gave the Bears respect in this season with a gauntlet of a schedule. He had
17th, puts them in the middle of the pack. They performed admirably, and 9-8 somewhere in there, and they still got the guy that they probably will still need the most. So that's the best case scenario for the Chicago Bears in my mind, barring playoffs, obviously. Or Kyle brought up Kyle Monungai earlier. What if this kid breaks out? Who the fuck knows? That could change things as well.
That's the great thing about rookies is you never know. You just never know. And James, I mean, PFF is it my end all be all? No, but is PFF is a useful website from time to time? Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'd like to hear James Christo's ranking or grades of offensive linemen. I mean, it's like
I just go off my eyes, man. But
there's not a football fan in the world who's like, well, let me dig into the offensive lineman.
Well, listen here, James Christo. Listen, James Christo. There is a
Bears fans are pretty sour on PFF right
now. They're very meticulous in analytics. They break down numbers that no other. There's just a fact that no other statistical analytical platform uses. They do, and they break it down to, but I think they go so fine in it and they dig so deep that it's actually negating the things that you're watching in a player on the field.
But I'm not going to sit here on this podcast and just say anybody who works for Pro Football Focus or ever written an article for Pro Football Focus just sucks and they don't know what they're talking about. You guys, there's a reason they have 50 million subscribers.
Let's say this: whoever wrote the article about second-year quarterbacks, floors, and ceilings is a fucking hack.
And you know what? You can find them at Yahoo. You can find them at ESPN. You can find them at every single
ESPN, especially
in the world. Have a bunch of garbage writers. There's a ton of them. And
ESPN is filled with them.
Yeah, and they have good ones too. There are.
Which, by the way, guys, if you guys want to,
there's a lot of.
Which, by the way, if you guys want to,
PFF a lot of times don't put their name on it, Kyle. So it's just PFF. Like they don't.
I'm just saying, I'm not going to sit here and just destroy everybody who's ever worked at PFF because there's very smart people.
But if you guys want to see some good,
sometimes too smart. Life is simple.
If you guys want to dive into some
people who are smart or not too smart and are very good.
Will you guys let me pan this? If you guys want to dive into some decent beat writing, though, 4starchicagosports.com has some quality blogs. Go check that out. That's the four of us, right? Speaking our mind on paper, guys. I'm for real though. Check that out, guys. We write some
definitely
blogs
know more than PFF.
4starchicagosports.com, and it's less based on analytics. It's more based on what you're watching, right? Because that's my point is sometimes you can dive too deep in the analytical side of things where you're not actually you're neglecting to just admit to what you see with your eyes. And I'm reading the highest graded player in a Bears game last week was Nate Davis while I'm watching him block his own center. I mean, it's just things get lost in analytics. And this is one of the biggest arguments in sports. Right. This is one of the biggest arguments in sports. Are analytics actually effective? And you can argue it both ways.
It's a combination of both. It's a combination of both.
Of course. Yeah. Every like
Moneyball, right? This is Moneyball.
If you play fantasy football, if you play fantasy football and you go to ESPN, CBS, and Yahoo, and you look at the player notes for that week, they're all completely different. And one of them, you're like, that guy's probably the most right of the three, and that guy's the most wrong. But
that's why I don't read shit.
I
just go with my gut. I go with my gut. I don't even read.
I mean, of course, I believe I'm right more than anybody on PFF. But if you're talking about referencing something, I mean, there's been plenty of articles written, you guys, where a lot of people have the Bears running back room in the bottom 5, bottom 10. It's not like PFF was like, oh, how could you possibly have come to this conclusion? Like, a lot of people are saying Bears running back room's 25, 26, 27, 20.
Well, an ESPN writer had Kyle Monungai with projected season of 18 carries for 102 yards and a touchdown. I mean there is no way that guy gets used that little.
I think this Bears running back room is going to be a lot better than people expect. And I think Ben Johnson is going to make a concerted effort to establish the run as early and often as possible.
I think it's better than 30.
That's going to make life easier on Caleb Williams.
It's definitely better than 30.
If they're middle of the pack with the running back by committee that
they're 18,
middle of the pack, that will be enough to get this offense humming, I think. I really do. But then you still need that guy next year, which is where this Jeremiyah Love thing comes in.
Well, that's just the icing on the cake.
That would be perfect to add to Ben Johnson's offense.
Yeah, the Bears running back room this year has to be good enough.
But I don't want to
defenses believe in the RPO, they believe in the play action, they bite, and then next year go get your stud. But yeah, this year they just almost have to basically disguise that this room is not.
James, I'm with you. Fuck PFF.
I love this from Vizzo Joe.
Fuck ESPN.
Mina Kimes had Ryan Clark on her podcast today, and he ranked NFL teams. He had Green Bay 6 and Bears 15. Your thoughts? My thoughts are that Ryan Clark is a fucking idiot. Personally, I don't like Ryan Clark at all.
He's one of the worst.
Oh my god! Yeah, but listen, the Packers are not the number 6 team.
But his projection of the Bears is where me and Dustin did.
15 makes total sense for the Bears.
That's where we had the Bears, but the Packers at 6 is. there's something there. There's some bias there. Does he know like a player on that team? I don't know that there's bias there. Nobody in their right mind has the Packers progressing from where they were last year, and they weren't sixth in the league. So I don't understand how he reaches that conclusion, because I think by all measures the Packers will regress this season. Is what the expectation is. Their schedule is brutal, just the same as the Bears, and they didn't play well against good football teams last year.
Yeah.
So you have to project.
Yeah, I mean,
the Packers move only one way.
It's the same argument, right? Like if like PFF's like Ryan Clark's an idiot. Like I'm not even going to dignify his rankings with a response. Like there's probably more merit in PFF than there's Ryan Clark. Everything comes out of his mouth is wrong.
When he called out Robert Griffin for the way he did on the fucking Angel Reese conversation, that was
having a white wife.
That was the hackiest, most ridiculous, and he had to apologize like a fucking bitch about it too. He had to walk it back because it was so stupid.
It was offensive. It was highly offensive to Robert Griffin.
Not just offensive, but just dumb. Just plain dumb. That's why you had to apologize for it. Like, get out of here, bro.
I might not even be exaggerating when I say Dan Orlovsky and Ryan Clark are my two least favorite football people in national.
Dan Orlovsky can suck a dick too, for sure.
Yeah, they both are absolute jokes that should never talk about football ever again, or at least people shouldn't listen because they're absolutely jokes. I mean, Ryan Clark.
Well, it just goes to show these guys, these ex-players aren't, and they're not analysts. Like, you can't just because you played a game, it doesn't mean that you know more than the next person about it when it comes to projecting a team. I agree. 10 years after your career, nobody cares. It's the same stuff as when these guys get up and speak their politics. Like, dude, you were a football. Nobody gives a shit.
Man, there's a lot of people who watch every single down of every single football game, and their opinion is still wrong.
The Bears,
like, they are still wrong, even if they watch football.
Well, that's part of being out. That's part of being out there in the public.
Yeah,
and
everybody's wrong.
You're gonna be wrong. It's not about being wrong. It's about, to me, it's just about the way he attaches his personal agenda.
Well, and also being wrong more often than you're right. I mean, if you're being paid on ESPN and the ESPN's telling people like, we pay this guy because he's really smart and he knows about football, and you're wrong more often than you're right, you're going to lose your credibility at some point. That people are going to be like, why would I listen to this guy? He's never been right about anything.
Is it crazy? Is it crazy to say the Packers could be the sixth best team in the NFL? No, yes. I don't think so. I don't think so. It could be. That could be possible. You could end up being right about that, but like, I just don't see it. Again, it is. It's a bold take, and you're paid to have them. And Colin Cowherd said the Bears were going to be a playoff team on his show. So I mean, like, these guys are going to go out on a limb. Again, it's just it upsets me and it bothers me when, like you said, Brandon, politics, or you attach your personal agenda to your take. That I don't need, and I want no part of it.
Well, and for all you know, he might be doing that when he made these rankings. He might like somebody on the Packers.
Oh, there's politics.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah, I mean, like, it's just a joke. And listen, could Green Bay be better than I expect them to be? Sure. Are they a top 6 team in the NFL? No, they're not.
Well, I mean, we just did a list on Thursday, Kyle. I don't know if you watched, but I think we had the Bucks at 6. I mean, the
Bucks are a damn good team. Might be the best offense in the NFL.
With a cakewalk of a schedule, man.
So I mean,
like the easiest schedule in the NFL.
Guys, if you want me and Brandon's like ridiculously unresearched, unhomeworked power rankings, we just did them, off the cuff as we talked about it. Go back to Thursday and check out the bare minimum.
We had the Packers 17th.
If you like gambling, go look at the odds for Tampa to win the Super Bowl, and that's a bet I'm willing to take. I'm not saying that I think the Tampa's going to win the Super Bowl, but if you're talking about, like, obviously you took the Chiefs, it's like minus 120, so you're not winning anything. If you feel like taking risks, if everything goes right for the Buccaneers, I think that team is capable of playing in a Super Bowl if everything goes right for them, and the odds are like plus 10,000.
James really hates PFF.
I'm with you, James.
Let it go.
I'm with you, James.
Yeah, I'm not a fan either. I have never been. Not from the beginning. It's just not something I've ever been on.
Obviously, like, if
we can move on.
If you're a football guy, watch football, and you think you know what you're talking about, then you shouldn't agree with any of them. You should agree with yourself. Right? That's probably. But I do like to read the different opinions. I go to PFF, I go to ESPN, I go to Sports Mockery, I put it all together.
You watch Fox News, you watch CNN.
It's called research, really.
Do your own homework. Yeah.
I don't like research though. I like content that makes me think. Like, if you're putting out content that makes me think about something in a different way and then come up with my kind of own opinion on it, then that makes total sense. And hopefully that's what we're doing here, making people think about
everything in life. Even
right.
I go to
read one side of the story.
I go to the chat from
read both sides of the story. Everything, politics.
Too many times. But too many times, guys, PFF becomes like the ultimate end-all, be-all to a football conversation.
I told you, it's the keyboard warriors. It's the keyboard warriors
because they have the most of all.
More complex than that.
It's because they have all the statistical websites for the NFL. They have the most subscribers, so that's. But the reason that people use PFF so often is because those are the articles that are most commonly read. So they're like, well,
it's
people.
It's
when
the
we reference
keyboard
this article,
warriors
people have read it.
most often cited source. It's annoying.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't give it any merit.
PFF stands for pretty fucking flawed.
PFF is not perfect. I'll tell you that. But
there are plenty of articles
written by PFF that are very good articles.
And Jedediah, they added a Mecca Ibuka to that receiving core. It's nasty.
Yeah, well, this ain't a Buck show. We're gonna move on. Matt Miller has Jeremiyah Love going 17 to the Bears in 2026. We can only hope. We'll see how it goes, man. But the Bears are the way it looks. The Bears will need to add that.
I mean, my hope is that Love is out of reach. That's my hope. I hope the Bears are drafted 32nd, but not realistic.
Yeah, that's not a realistic hope. But you never know.
Don't be Ryan Clark about it.
No, my hope, not my guess. My hope is that the Bears are in the playoffs, and they are not at 17. They're at 22, 23, 24.
And I think
probably not going to happen.
If it's not a running back, I think you're looking at an edge or a left tackle.
Defensive end. Yes. And left tackle. There's a loaded group of left tackles. Sean just put out the list today to us. Like, so I think
it's safe to say, as Bears fan, one of those three things is probably going to be the first round pick.
It'd be nice if all those things were established, wouldn't it? Like if the left tackle spot got solidified this season by Trapillo or Amagaji or Braxton Jones, and the running back position got solidified between DeAndre Swift.
Austin Booker is a god, and
Austin Booker is the guy that I think he is. Yes,
so you need a linebacker,
and then we could have a luxury pick at that point. So who knows? But yeah, the odds of all three of those things working out this season, Kyle, those are very low, and you're probably going to have at least one of those needs. But the good thing is, it looks like those needs are going to be available to you in this upcoming draft, and hopefully the Bears have a competitive season where they're sticking in these games. And
guys, if the Bears feel like they are close, and maybe only one of those three holes needs to be plugged next year, then you can part ways with future assets and trade up and go get the best of that
or
position.
Trade for an established player already,
or a free agent who you think you could maybe Trey Hendricks or some guy like that, and then you're like, hey, we don't need millions of dollars in the bank. We don't need 25 draft picks because our team is damn good. We're just missing a Trey Hendricks, and I'm fine with that. I just think like this last offseason, the Bears just had too many holes to be.
Well, there's a possibility, but there's always a possibility that Ben Johnson has a vision. There's a possibility that this running game performs well. That DeAndre Swift's a good player, and Ben Johnson wants to go get what he wants anyways. I mean,
you got to take it. We got to take it one season at a time, and we got to see how this season goes to kind of project what their needs are going to be. And I just want the last thing I wanted to get to today, guys, that we want to talk about. And you'll think you think this is crazy that I came up with this one because like I would trade DJ Moore for the 10th overall pick in the draft. Yes, I would. But at the same time, I love DJ Moore. What's up, Kyle?
Real quick, just because Kyle's kind of putting
God damn it.
Kyle, I love you, man. But as he says, besides tough schedule, while Green Bay regressed and the Bears get better. I never said they would regress, but Green Bay was the top 6 team in the NFL last year.
Yeah, Brandon said that.
I just said they're not going to be a top 6 team in the NFL, and that they would.
If they're even on par with what they did last year against this schedule, they will be worse in terms of record. They could stay the same in terms of their talent and ability, but play a tougher schedule.
And I never said the Bears are going to win the Super Bowl, but I think they're capable of winning more than 5 games. And the reason for that is not bias. It's because their coach was an idiot.
And there's a guy stepping into a starting cornerback role I've never even heard of.
Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams is going to – I think he's going to plant his flag in the NFL this year. People are going to be like, oh, shit, Caleb Williams.
Okay. So speaking of planting the flag, DJ Moore – we talked about how multiple people regressed last year because of the offensive coordinator in the complete change around throughout the season. Just terrible leadership, terrible play calling, terrible offensive line play, right? Yeah, all of that. So DJ Moore now has Ben Johnson as his offensive coordinator as well, not just Caleb Williams. All these guys got Ben Johnson as their offensive coordinator. And I think DJ Moore gets kind of overlooked in these conversations because they drafted Luther Burden, because last year they drafted Rome Odunze, and I expect big things from Rome. But you look at what Amon-Ra St. Brown did in that Detroit Lions offense under Ben Johnson, and he's one of the top 5 receivers in the NFL, guys. I don't think there's any other way to cut it. Like he flew under the radar for a year or so there, but then he kind of.
Even if not, like 6, 7. Even if
I would say top 5. I don't think you can find 4 guys to put. You can find 4 guys that you prefer over him, but statistically, in terms of performance, I don't think you can find 5 guys to put in front of him, Kyle. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's close.
It's like it would be like I could say
by a hair.
I'm Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, and I could probably find 5, but you're talking about like splitting hairs. Yeah,
right.
So St. Brown's
top
awesome.
5 caliber receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown has been in that, in terms of his production in that Ben Johnson offense in Detroit. Now, why can't DJ Moore play that same role in Ben Johnson's offense was my thought and is my question. And tell me why DJ Moore can't be a top 5 receiver in the NFL this year in Ben Johnson's offense if he does play that same role.
I think he
Tell
can.
me why.
I think he can be a top 5 receiver in the Bears offense this year. I really do, especially if I'm not hoping for this, and this would be bad for Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. But say somebody in the team got hurt like a Rome Odunze, then he's certainly in the conversation for top 5 receivers in the NFL. Not even a question. I think the only thing that would hamper DJ Moore's chances of making that list would be the fact that what we've talked about 1,000 times on this podcast today. There's just so many mouths to feed. I don't know how many targets he's going to get. His best year in the NFL, he had 136 targets, 1,364 yards. In 8 touchdowns. I don't think this offense is going to allow him to get that 136 targets and let somebody get hurt. But you guys, his best season in the NFL in 2023, he finished as the 8th best receiver in terms of touchdowns and the 5th or the 6th best receiver in terms of yards. So, he's certainly in that top 5 conversation that year. You talk about maybe another 50 more yards, 1 more touchdown, and he becomes a top 5 player. So I think he's capable of doing it for sure. It's just that it's going to be tough to find targets on the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's the thing that stands in the way more than anything, because Amon-Ra St. Brown was the clear-cut number 1 guy. He did not have a Rome Odunze to compete for targets against, and I think Rome Odunze is in for a breakout season. But let me read Amon-Ra St. Brown stats to you, Brandon, before you go, because this is since Ben Johnson took over as offensive coordinator. Amon-Ra, 2022, 106 receptions on 146 targets, 1,161 yards and 6 touchdowns, 11 yards per catch. Next year, 23, 119 receptions on 164 targets, 1,515 yards, 10 touchdowns, 12.7 yards per catch. And then last season, 115 receptions on 141 targets, 1,263 yards, 12 touchdowns, 11 yards per reception. This guy's been an absolute stud in that offense. And I know we don't expect Ben Johnson to just recreate what he did in Detroit. You have different weapons here, different talent here. But why can't DJ Moore play the slot, Brandon, in Ben Johnson's offense and be that guy that's funneled the ball as much? Like, you see the amount of targets Amon-Ra St. Brown had, and you see the amount of catches he had on those targets because of the scheming of Ben Johnson, right? Like, what is that replicable with DJ Moore in your mind?
Well, I think the thing that makes it replicable to me is DJ Moore, because listen, Amon-Ra St. Brown last year finished 2nd in the league in yards after the catch. This is DJ Moore's greatest strength. So if we're talking about Amon-Ra being given the ball in advantageous situations where he has room to run after he catches it, if Ben Johnson can do a lot of that with DJ Moore, the sky's the limit, because I think DJ Moore is, throughout his career, one of the best. I'd call him a top 5 player in the league at yards after the catch.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
Statistically, he is.
I think this guy.
He's very good, similar to Deebo Samuel.
Was number 6 last year.
Deebo Samuel has led the league in that for 3 years in a row, I believe. And
I think Ben Johnson will identify that. Ben
Yeah.
Johnson's going to identify that his greatest strength is to put the ball in his hands with room to run, because whenever DJ Moore does that, that's when he's at his most lethal point of
And
attack.
good things happen for your football team when he does that too. Yeah.
So I think the yards for DJ Moore, if you were talking about top 5, the yards is certainly achievable. I don't know about touchdowns, because you just have a lot of weapons on this team. I don't know about receptions, but yards, absolutely.
Let me throw this out there. Because this is my concern with it, and it has been, and it's not really a concern because it's kind of a luxury when you have all these weapons on your team. But if Rome Odunze is that dude, number 1 receiver that he was drafted to be, that will pull attention and targets away from DJ Moore. That'll just naturally happen. And the thing that stands out with Amon-Ra St. Brown is his targets, guys. I mean, the amount of targets this guy has: 146, 164, 141. DJ Moore is, I don't know if he's touching that amount of opportunity.
No, that's
too many. My biggest concern, right?
Yeah, unless Rome Odunze gets hurt, I don't see that happening. I just don't see how that's possible.
But at the same time,
if that happens, that means Rome Odunze is not as good of a player as we thought he was.
But at the same time,
There's no reason
that
she should be getting
implies to me
140
that
targets.
150 targets in a season? That's a lot. I mean,
at
is
the
DJ
same
Moore
time,
going to
though,
get close to that?
that implies to
No.
me that the defenses playing Detroit had to know this guy was getting those targets, and he caught
And
the
it
ball
didn't
anyways.
matter. He caught the ball at a very high rate for the
Yeah.
amount he was targeted too, which is what tells me that is scheming from Ben Johnson. This guy is what if you go watch any Lions game, you go watch any Lions game, Amon-Ra's catching the ball with not a lot of people around him. He's got space every time he catches the ball.
Either that, or they're very short passes that are high success rate.
Well, that's significant too, because he's in the middle of the field. He's working out of the spot.
Still scheme.
It's still scheme. And you've identified that strength in Amon-Ra St. Brown. And all I'm saying is that I think you can identify that same strength in DJ Moore. I thought this from the beginning when Ben Johnson was hired. So it's like, if all things go well and you identify that in DJ Moore and he plays that role on your team, that slot receiver, maybe Luther Burden wasn't drafted to be that this year. Maybe Ben Johnson has in his head, we don't know yet. But DJ Moore is that slot guy, is the guy that's going to get funneled the ball the most. I think it's very probable based on what you guys
he will be top 5 though.
That he could be a top 5 receiver if he gets those kinds of opportunities. But again, that's a big if. The amount of opportunities, the amount of targets that Amon-Ra St. Brown got with that Detroit Lions team is just, I don't know how it's available here when you consider the talent that was on that team versus the talent that's on this team, guys.
Yeah, I mean, and you have to imagine that. I just thought, there's no way. I think if he gets 140 targets, something has gone wrong. I think somebody's hurt, somebody's not playing well, something's wrong. Because I just think, like you said, Dustin, there's just so much talent on this team. Why would DJ Moore get 150 targets? That's just too much for if you're talking about Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift's going to get a ton. Calvin Unguy's probably going to get some. Roshan Johnson's going to get some. If DJ Moore's getting 140 to 150, like those Amon-Ra St. Brown numbers, I feel like something is wrong.
It's a lot of design targets.
And when I asked the question, why can't, I literally wanted us to say, like, why can't he? Because that makes sense to me. And that's what I've thought from the beginning. I expect big breakout from Rome Odunze. I expect big breakout from Colston Loveland. There are a lot of mouths to feed. And that's what Vizzo Joe is echoing in the chat, guys. So it's like, those are the reasons he can't, in my mind. Like, it becomes very improbable in this offense for DJ Moore to get that amount of opportunity. But I did want to hear what Sean has to say in terms of why can DJ Moore be a top 5 receiver in Ben Johnson's offense? What ways could you see it happening, Sean? Because I know you're a big DJ Moore guy.
I am. What's going on, fellas, by the way?
What up,
How's
man?
everybody doing tonight?
You get all your shit done? You all good?
Almost. Yeah, almost.
Oh, shit. Be careful.
We're getting close.
Okay. Very good.
No, I think he can fall just below the top 5. I do, but I think he can make a push for it. I mean, look at the targets that Jameis Williams got last year. Look at the targets that Sam Laporta got. I believe Sam Laporta had 80 targets, and what's his name? Jameis Williams had 90. I could see that kind of offense still balancing itself out, and DJ Moore being able to push for that 1,300 yards. If he is truly the focal point, which I believe he will be in the Chicago Bears offense this year, at least to start the season. So
you're saying that you don't think Luther Burden's got involved this season?
I think Luther Burden may get involved, but before, I jumped on him right away. I got to really see him get out on the field and actually see him perform, sign the contract, and actually start moving, because we haven't seen much from him, and you know what? It's going to be earned in this offense. And if Zacchaeus is out there earning it, there's a good chance that Zacchaeus gets the first crack, while Luther Burden has to sit behind him. I mean, if the coach speak is real, that's kind of what's happening, and we'll just have to kind of wait and see what Burden does. If he comes out, if he's healthy, if he participates in camp, and he's up to speed come week 1 against Minnesota, where I think Zacchaeus will be.
There's a good question here from Laz around what you're talking about, and I wanted to get to it. He says, prediction on Luther Burden's rookie year, better or worse than advertised? When we get into these predictions, we kind of get into trouble, it seems like. But what do you guys think? Do you think I think Luther Burden is a star in the making, but I've said this over and over again, and I'll just lead it off with this. the amount of people in front of him that he's going to have to beat out for opportunity is a lot, like you were just saying, Sean. So it's like I expect it to be a slow burn for Luther Burden. It's going to take him some time to earn a role on this offense, I think. But once he does and starts getting the ball in his fucking hands, it's going to be hard to get him.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. If this guy comes on the field and catches a screen pass and takes the 75 yards for a touchdown on his first touch ever, I mean, it's going to be the coach's has to be real hard pressed to keep Luther Burden off of the field. If he is as advertised as last puts, and I don't know if he's talking about statistics or just supposed to be a really good player. We've heard comparisons to Antonio Brown. If he is that guy, Luther Burden's going to dig into Cole Kmet and Rome Odunze's target share a little bit. He should, right? I mean, why would you not want that guy in the field?
real quick, guys, in regards to DJ Moore, and we can even throw Luther Burden in the conversation. DJ Moore had 140 targets last season, and Keenan Allen had 121, and Keenan Allen's not here. So unless Luther Burden,
Brandon, that's what I was kind of saying. If you replicate what happened in Detroit, there's still plenty of targets and opportunity for DJ Moore to make that push.
So we're saying that he possibly can get those.
Yeah,
those
we're saying. I guess I'm saying if some of the targets are if the expectation, because you added Luther Burden and you added Colston Loveland, the expectation for DJ Moore's targets is to come down. Keenan Allen had 121.
There's 121 targets left out there that can be divvied up.
DJ Moore, even if he makes a drop, some of those will go to him. I mean, DJ Moore might still finish around 120 targets in the season.
I think he will finish around.
That was my number. That was my number, Brandon. Yeah,
that's what I said. That's what I'm saying. Like he had 140. If you drop that down to 120, I think you should project him to be around 1,250 yards.
And if he's second in the league in yards after the catch,
very good. And I'm not taking anything away from DJ Moore. It's not because he's not good. It's the opportunity. I think if he's around 120 targets, he'll be around 1,200 yards, and he won't be a top 5 receiver. If you're talking about like fantasy numbers, then he's not a top 5 receiver.
There was one point.
He could be if he was on a team with nothing else to pass to.
There was one point I wanted to make on this DJ Moore conversation that me and Sean were talking about before the show, actually. For him to be in that conversation of the top 5 receiver, he needs to do something he's never done in his career, guys. He needs to get double-digit touchdowns. You look at Amon-Ra St. Brown these last 2 years, 10 touchdowns, 12 touchdowns. Like, you got to start getting in the end zone more often.
Yeah, you need to.
I'm not good with 8.
Finish big plays. Finish big plays. Like, you can't do this thing where you dink and donk your way down the field. Like, if you want to be like Amon-Ra St. Brown, you need to be like the Detroit Lions, where they're scoring 50-yard touchdowns on a weekly basis.
But Ben Johnson's scheme
could be a top 5 receiver.
Ben Johnson's scheme is going to help with that.
And there's no way DJ Moore is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL if he's not a top 5 yards after the catch player in the NFL. He has to be.
Which he has the capabilities to do.
Yes, he has to be. I would say at least top 5 in that statistic to finish as a top 5 wide receiver.
Sean, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, even if you go back to 2023, which was his career year, I'm looking at it right now. He was the 6th overall fantasy receiver, and he wound up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He wound up 6 in yards at 1364. He wound up with 258.
And only 8 touchdowns, though, right?
Only 8 touchdowns. Yeah, he had 1 rushing touchdown, so he had 9 total touchdowns.
Still 8th. I mean, it's tied with a bunch of other guys, but that's still 8th in the NFL in touchdowns.
Yeah, I need you to separate yourself a little more to call you a top 5 guy, though. That's all I'm saying. And
Sean just made that point. He was 6th. He wasn't the top
here,
5.
And here, I believe, and that's what I said when I first came out. I believe he's going to fall into that top 10 this year. I believe DJ Moore is going to have one hell of a year. I've said it for weeks, and I'm not going to back off because that's my dog. And I think he's going to push for that 1,300 yards. I think the opportunities are going to be there. And I think Ben Johnson is going to make him the focal point, at least to start in this offense. And I think if you do that, good things are going to happen when you get the ball in DJ Moore's hands.
Brandon, do you still have those targets in front of you for the Bears? Because how many did Rome have last year?
Rome had 101.
So you're talking about 140 for DJ Moore. 121 for Keenan Allen, 101 for Rome, and what else?
Very pass-happy offense.
And here's my thing, though.
Yeah, pass-happy offense.
Well, let me just make this point real quick on those targets. If you divvy those, like you said, that 121 for Keenan Allen is just gone. You give 20 more of those to Rome Odunze, and now you got DJ Moore. DJ Moore still stays at 140 targets. Rome Odunze is at 120, and you still got 100 targets to divvy up among Luther Burden and Zacchaeus and DeAndre Swift.
I think the difference that's going to be here, guys, is with the addition of Eric Bieniemy. Between Roschon Johnson and DeAndre Swift, your targets were pretty low last year.
Of course, it's speculation.
You were at 72 targets. You were at 72 targets between the two backs. I think you're going to have a whole lot more targets allocated to the backfield.
Well, as I just said, that's leaves
can we
100
all-
to divvy up amongst all those guys.
I
Can
think
we all
from
agree that
42 from in regards to targets, you have 72 between the two running backs. I think you're gonna have somewhere near 100 to your backfield.
Can
this
we all
year.
agree that there's
Well,
a good chance that overall targets go down and the Bears run the ball more than they did last year?
Yeah, that's the next thing I was going to go to, Kyle. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, if
Ben Johnson is going to want to run the ball because he
Yeah.
is the number one guy at play action. To have successful play
And
action,
running the ball.
you have to have successful running of the football. There's going to be a more concerted effort to run the football. That is 100%.
And I think with the interior of the offensive line rebuilt, they're going to have more success running the ball. So why would you stop, right? Like the best way to win football games is to never put the ball in harm's way and just run the ball and play defense. And yeah, I think they're going to run the ball a lot. I think the targets will go down overall. I think Sean's right. I expect DJ around and with somewhere around 120 targets. I said
if Caleb's throwing
50 yards and 9
times
touchdowns.
a game,
That's what I said.
yeah, if Caleb's
You
throwing
guys-
27
you-
times a game, I think
you
that's
guys got to
27
remember
to
too, just between Amon-Ra and Jameson, there was almost 300 targets last year, and they still ran the ball between Monty, and that's not including Craig Reynolds or anybody else, but Monty and Gibbs combined at 435 carries. Well, they still passed the ball almost 500 times.
Yeah,
They're-
but let's
they're
face
mouths to
it.
feed,
Well,
though, on that
let's
Lions
think about this, right? Like Tim Patrick was the number 3 receiver. I
Exactly,
think Luther
yeah.
Burden's probably going to be better. I think Zacchaeus is better than Tim Patrick. I think Colston Loveland's the new player that has to take targets. I mean, their number 2
At the
tight end.
receiver position too.
The number 2 tight end of Detroit's not going to have as many targets as Cole Kmet did.
Colston Loveland's going to take targets at the wide receiver position. But guys, Caleb Williams had 33 attempts per game last year.
Yeah, I want
I
that
hope
closer
that's
to
down.
28.
I hope
I
that
want
goes
that
down.
closer to
Dramatically
28. That's what I was saying.
I was just going to say
27
between
30.
25 to 28 would be
Yeah,
for me.
that's
Even
ideal.
27 to 30, even 27 to 30, I can deal with because
I mean,
Ben
like-
Johnson is going to want to throw the ball. But I mean, you gotta keep him a little safer and you gotta keep him a little fresher.
Yeah.
And the play action will help with that. But again, to do that, you have to establish the run first. You have to make the defense concerned about the run for play action to work, which is where Caleb will thrive in this offense. In my mind.
And if you're throwing the ball close to 35 times a game, that to me is
As a rookie.
That's a one-dimensional team. Like,
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
they're doing.
you're coming
I mean,
from
that's-
behind a lot too.
I was going to
Yeah,
say it depends the game situation on what you're going
I mean,
to do.
how many times did he throw the ball in that Colts game? 56.
It was insane. Yes, that was.
As
It
a
was,
as
I
a
thought it was,
rookie,
That
it was
should
like
never.
55. Yeah, it was like 50,
Yeah,
it was
that
right
should-
around there. Yeah,
I hope that never happens again in the history of his career.
that was when I called for Eberflus to be fired and Waldron. Right then, we did it live on the recap on the Halas All Hangover, guys. Let's sum this up though, because if anybody's got anything more to say about DJ Moore, we can talk a little bit more about whatever else. But I think what we've kind of come to in terms of the conclusion here is that DJ Moore has the capabilities to put up that kind of season in Ben Johnson's offense, but the potential for it exists, but we just don't think it's as high in terms of the opportunity that Amon-Ra St. Brown had in that Lions offense versus what DJ Moore is going to have.
I think
in
if
the
you put
Bears
DJ Moore on the Lions and they don't, he's on that team,
and they just replaced Amon-Ra St. Brown with DJ
and he
Moore.
gets the same amount of targets as St. Brown. I think he is a top 5 receiver for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
and just for some,
I'm running at 141, so I mean, hopefully we're looking at least 20 less for DJ Moore. I would like to see the ball spread
just
out.
for some perspective too.
Yeah, me
is
too.
Jaden Daniels had 28 target or attempts per game.
What was that? What's it again?
Jaden Daniels was at 28. A rookie throwing 33 passes per game is
It's
just
too
a
much.
recipe for
It's too
fucking
much.
disaster.
Yeah, and how this guy made it through the season with only throwing 6 picks is amazing.
But the Bears too were trailing a lot, so he had to throw the ball and bring him back. So I mean, you got
that situationally,
circumstances
changes
caused for
what
him
they
to
do.
have
Well,
to throw the ball.
but at the same
But
time,
they opened games with him throwing.
I also,
Yeah.
do you guys agree that the Bears should probably score faster this year than on drives,
I hope
scoring
so.
drives last year? So
Yeah,
that
you
your
would
targets
hope
will
so.
go down there too, because you
I
should have
hope
more
not.
explosive plays than the Bears had last year. I would hope.
But you also want the time of possession in your favor.
well, guys, I think we've
Not
got
if you're scoring you score on one play every single time. I don't give a shit about time possession. I could
Yeah,
care
I don't-
less.
yeah,
If you're scoring an 80-yard touchdown every time you take the field, then keep scoring those 80-yard touchdowns. I don't care about the time possession.
I think we've touched on everything we wanted to get to, guys. Anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here?
no,
Sean, you got anything?
no, my team captains though would have been Montez Sweat, Probably,
But-
I'd probably give the
Just
nod to
real
Grady
quick,
Jarrett.
we went levels. One defensive line, one linebacker, one.
So you got to pick
defensive
one
back.
defensive lineman.
Yeah, and
So
then we went
it's
one
between-
offensive lineman, one weapon, and the quarterback.
Just want to say this real quick, though, guys, for not caring. The two teams that led the NFL in time of possession were the Eagles and the Lions.
Yeah, they
I care
controlled the
about
game.
that.
They controlled the
care
game
about
with their run game. Yes.
I understand. I'm not saying the time of possession is not important. I'm saying if every punt and every kickoff, the Bears scored from the first play of the scrimmage, I'm not complaining. Like
That-
you can't.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
You're not going to be. Yeah, you're not going to be like, hey, if you have an 80-yard touchdown, kneel, take a knee so that we can get. We'll come down to 20 and score from there. So
But that clearly just does not happen often, Kyle. Where that's a very you're obviously going way out.
My point was that they're going to score faster this year than the Bears inching down the field last year and getting a fourth down
Of the top
every
10
single
teams
drive.
in time of
That's not going to
possession,
happen this year.
2 of them didn't make the playoffs. Of the top 10 time,
It's a pretty good indicator of successful teams.
Do you agree with what I'm saying?
Like you said, Dustin, of running the ball.
Yes,
You're running the ball well.
You're controlling the clock. Yes.
Yeah,
I understand.
Kyle was exaggerating to make a point. That's all. He wasn't like talking literally. I don't believe.
I hope they win the time possession of every game. But if the reason they didn't is because they're scoring touchdowns too fast, I'm not complaining about it in any way, shape.
Yeah, yeah, he says that in jest, but it makes sense.
Before we hang it up, guys, real quick, I am totally.
Laz is calling Kyle salty Kyle all night.
I think we were split here on this text. I think we were split on these texts. I'm totally opposed to the decision the Steelers made today, but we don't have to dive too deep into that.
I don't think you should not have traded Minka.
It sounds to me like they're going all in, man. They think Aaron Rodgers. They think
but I don't think
Minka go all in by getting rid of Minka Fitzpatrick.
Jalen Ramsey is not better than Minka Fitzpatrick today.
Well, but they got 2 players for one, guys.
Once you find out they got Jonnu Smith, then you understood it a little more. But even then, like you already had Pat Freiermuth, so we'll see what their plan is. But I don't. This is very
sets.
This stuff is very on Steelers like the signing of Aaron Rodgers, kind of desperation. It reeks of desperation. This trade, this speaks to like what I see coming as like a rough season for the Steelers guys. But I could be wrong. It's hard to count out Mike Tomlin.
And Jalen Ramsey's going on his 4th NFL. This guy's a problem, dude.
Yeah,
he's going. If he's a good player, why he's 4 NFL teams?
He's a damn good player, man.
He is, but I think I like Minka Fitzpatrick better. I do.
But he's a problem that
once
Mike Tomlin don't want to deal with.
What's that, Sean?
I think Jalen Ramsey is declining a little bit.
Yeah, and Minka Fitzpatrick is still in his prime. He's still in his prime. I don't understand this deal at all.
I'm with you, Dustin. I didn't see this as I thought when they still had Fitzpatrick, I thought it was a damn good trade, but I didn't. That was before.
Sean, Izzo Joe wants to know your captains, man.
Yeah, go through it.
If I have to pick one from each side,
each level on each side.
Each level, I have to pick a linebacker. Really?
Yep.
Go back and watch, Sean. You'll see how that turned.
It got a little crazy. It got a little crazy.
I would flip. I know Montez Sweat was. I don't know if you guys picked him, but I would probably go Grady Jarrett on this year's team.
Yes, same. We went Grady Jarrett.
We all went.
Okay, I would go Jalen Johnson. He'd probably be my top first overall captain, and then if I had to pick a linebacker, man, I guess TJ Edwards.
Yep, that's what we ended up with.
Yes,
exactly. Yes.
I mean,
I'm with you, Sean. I wouldn't pick a linebacker. I'm with you, bro. I'm not picking a linebacker.
Okay, we can take TJ Edwards out and put Montez Sweat.
Offensive side's easy for me. It's DJ Moore, Joe Tooney, and Caleb Williams.
Yep,
Did you say Jalen Johnson would be like your team captain of all the captains? He'd be your number 1.
Yes, I think so.
Jalen Johnson is the shit. He is.
I like the way Jalen Johnson took charge of that team at the end of last season. He was the one coming out in the media. He started all this. They had to give him a hush-hush moment where they pulled him back. We're like, dude, you can't save this. He still came out like, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to save this shit because you guys are screwing up behind the scenes. He was.
There's no way I don't make Joe Tooney.
He was also here. I'll tell you this.
That is a real leader. I would put Joe Tooney on that list above Jalen Johnson at this point.
Here, I would say this though: if you go back and look at that game, who was the player on the field screaming at the sideline, going like this?
Yeah,
That was Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, we
That's
didn't
your
talk
team
about that.
captain on your defense, recognizing there's a problem.
And your coach not.
Something we talked about. Somebody said in the chat earlier. They said that the players like Jalen Johnson are the ones who forced the Bears to fire Matt Eberflus. And the response was Matt Eberflus got himself fired. But I think the players being so open about it and the national media did help him get fired.
Pressure. They put a lot of pressure.
It's as opposed to the end of the
Jalen
season.
Johnson just gave the nudge. He gave the nudge,
and the media took it and ran with it.
On top of that.
Then you started getting into games where the announcer during the game, like the Lions game, is like, how do the Bears always find ways to screw this stuff up? And that was pretty much the.
I think Matt Eberflus was in the middle of a
I'll do
10-game losing streak, got him fired. But
well, I'll do you one with Jalen Johnson. The team was pretty quiet until he came up. DJ Moore said a little bit, but then he got hushed, and they could not stop Jalen Johnson. He was on the
and Mercedes Lewis was the first voice to publicize himself.
Before DJ Moore?
Early on in the season, Mercedes Lewis was talking about how they were being coached, needed to be coached.
They weren't being coached enough.
Yeah.
He said, I'm 40 years old. I want this coaching staff, even if it's the oldest player on the team, knowing it was himself. I want him to put me on blast in front of everybody else. That's what he said.
I got to get out of here. I got shit to do with the baby, so I'm gonna bounce. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Everybody in the chat was awesome tonight, guys.
Let's just wrap this thing up, man.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Let's do it. I got to get going. So.
All right. Well, one thing before we get out of here.
Fuck Green Bay! 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 Yes, sir!
That's
you guys
for you,
wanted
Harris.
a new one. We found a new one.
Good job. I like that one better too. Yeah, that was for you, Harris.
It's
Thanks for being here.
Oh, I love you, Kyle.
Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. We'll be back again on Wednesday with the Barely There, Thursday with the Bare Minimum, Saturday with the Northside 9, and then
Not
back
this
on
Saturday.
Monday
Not
again.
this Saturday.
Oh no, not the Saturday canceled. Okay, give it a couple weeks. Let it marinate.
Yeah, take your holiday weekend, guys.
Monday we got the Halas Hall Hangover coming back to you. We appreciate everybody. Have a great rest of your night and bear down.
Bear down.
Peace.
Vernon, are you coming on Wednesday?